Hello everyone, Zeno here. Here to bring in Season 2 Part 6 of What If TMNT Were Teleport in Avatar. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 11, New World Order. It was night in New York City as lightning flashed across the sky. The bolts of electricity danced across the clouds that circled the top of the Chrysler Building, as if a terrifying force of nature was about to unveil itself to the world. Within the roof of one of New York's tallest buildings, the five mystics stood in a circle surrounding a certain black sarcophagus. All five of them had placed their hands together in a prayer fashion and began to recite an ancient demonic chant as an intense red aura formed around all of them and circled the coffin in the middle. The mystics had been chanting for quite some time, trying to gather and concentrate as much of their own dark powers needed to break the seal placed on the coffin by the tribunal and Avatar Ryakuyu, and after some time, it would seem they had finally succeeded. The sarcophagus began to shake as the chains and locks all broke off before the top finally exploded. Out of the remains of the black coffin, a humanoid skeleton with broken armor was pulled into the air as invisible dark magic circled around the skeleton. Soon, flesh began to regrow over the bones that were straightened out and realigned. Organs, muscles, and veins all regenerated around the skeleton as a pale white skin began to grow as well. Additionally, the armor repaired itself around the body as the process was complete. A humanoid hovered in the air, clad in dark feudal armor akin to that of an ancient samurai with a flowing red cape. His pale skin, long dark blue hair, and glowing red eyes had shown that while he had the appearance of a human, he was the furthest thing from. He clenched his hands to show that he was now completely alive. Using his own power, he telekinetically pulled his gauntlet and helmet from the side of the room and placed them on himself, his gauntlet sliding onto his right arm, and his helmet on his head. An explosion of pure dark magic had blown the five mystics back quite a bit, forcing them to cover their eyes briefly as they saw the smoke clear to reveal their master, alive and well. In response, the five mystics immediately kneeled before him. "Master," they all said simultaneously. At last, the fire mystic began. The shredder is risen," the wind mystic announced. It was true, Oroku Sake, the original demon shredder had returned. "I live," the ultimate evil declared. "Now, let the world tremble." Ha 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 ha. Aang gave a gasp as he was brought out of his meditation and fell on his hands and knees, breathing heavily as sweat poured down his face. In his meditative state, he could feel the forces of the world, even though he was not in his own world. And he could feel it, the sudden reveal of a terrible power that rivaled and even surpassed his own. Momo chirped as he flew to his master and looked at Aang with concern as the young avatar had a distressed and serious look on his face. "He's back, Momo." Aang spoke to his pet. "The shredder has returned." Leonardo ran through the seemingly empty streets of New York City as the entire city began to shake and crumble. Fire rang down from the skies, storms surged as lightning and heavy rain poured down, tornadoes stretched and touched onto the ground to cause even further destruction, but Leo did his best to ignore all of that as he pushed forward. "Where are you?" the blue-clad turtle called out, looking for someone. He turned a corner to look down the streets as he saw Aang in his avatar state, facing an enormous shadow with glowing red eyes and taking a familiar shape. "Aang!" Leo called out as he tried to run in and help, but the ground broke apart in front of him as a wall of dark green magic erupted to block his path. The enormous shadow raised its clawed gauntlet and, despite being in the avatar state and charging at the shadow in an elemental sphere, Aang was brought down by a single claw strike, much to Leo's horror. All of a sudden, the entirety of New York City was transformed into what could only be described as a mixture of ancient Japan and hell itself, bathed in fire as the ancient demon shredder loomed over all of it. He gave a loud and booming laugh as his red eyes glowed violently. His evil and triumphant laugh would strike terror into any and all who heard it. Leo, whose tribunal amulet had begun to glow, along with his bright blue aura and markings, was startled awake with a yelp. The second he was awake, his amulet's glow had vanished, followed by his aura and markings. He soon heard similar yells and screams all throughout the lair, many he recognized that belonged to his brothers and friends. Leo quickly made his way to the central chamber of the lair where he met Raph, Katara, Zuko, Dawn, Toph, Mikey, Sokka, and Azula, all of them looking as though they had just woken up from a terrible nightmare. They were soon joined by Suki, Ty Lee, Mai, along with Master Splinter, Iroh, and even the Ancient One. What the heck is with all the screaming? Mike questioned irritably as she and everyone else had been startled awake. It's the middle of the night. It sounded like one of those horror movies Mikey made us all watch. Ty Lee added. Well, I had a pretty serious nightmare. Aang was there and, Leo tried to find the right words. He was fighting something, Sokka finished. Something very big and very bad. I think it was the Shredder. Zuko assumed. Looked like Aang was fighting with all he had but, he lost, Raph said. I saw that too, Katara said, her voice indicating how frightened and worried she was. Did he really lose? Sure, felt that way. Toph put in. I couldn't really see anything, but it felt like the whole world was crumbling apart. I saw that too, Dawn also said. Then New York transformed into a horror show. Sort of like an alternate universe but worse. If I would best describe it, I would say it looked like a demonic version of the Fire Nation, Azula commented in a tone indicating she was intimidated as well. Yeah, and the Shredder was there. Mikey said. The ancient big voodoo Shredder, acting all king of the world. Whoa, hold on. Suki stated. Did you all have the same dream? She asked, resulting in the group in question looking more than a little surprised as they looked amongst each other. However, the old masters seemed to understand. Looks like you young ones are walking the Noryuku path. The Ancient One observed. Yes, it would seem that you are all connected to forces beyond time and space through your subconscious. Master Splinter said. Could you run that by us again old dudes, in a language that we can understand? Toph questioned somewhat skeptically. The Ancient One gave an annoyed tisk. And you kids are our last hope. What they are trying to say is that your amulets, as well as your training with the Ninja Tribunal has connected all of you to the Shredder in some way. Iroh explained. And that was their goal, to forge each of you into the ultimate warriors capable of battling evil on a physical and mystical plane. That is until the mystics came in and ruined things. Sokka put in. Indeed. Master Splinter nodded gravely. The Shredder's evil heralds put an end to the Tribunal's plans. All were destroyed, and your training never finished. All we can do now is hope that what you all have learned will be enough. Iroh said. Because it would seem that your nightmares have confirmed what we all feared would never come to pass. The Dragon of the West shared grave expressions with the Ancient One and Master Splinter. Our meditations have shown us terrible things. The Ancient One said. The Ninja Tribunal's worst fear come true, we have seen the Shredder brought back to life. That statement caught all the young heroes by surprise as every single one of them felt a chill down their spines. The Shredder, back, Leo voiced in worry. No way, Toph's dull eyes shook as Raph instinctively put an on her shoulder. Dawn wiped the sweat that was already coming down his forehead. Mikey gulped as he and Ty Lee looked towards each other with fear clear in their eyes. Sokka, Suki, and Katara shared looks of fear as well. Zuko and Mai held each other's hands as they both glanced towards Azula who looked visibly shaken. And should he gain control over the power of the Nexus, he will turn not only both our worlds, but all worlds throughout the cosmos into a dark chaos. Iroh said gravely. It won't be a pleasant sight. What about Aang? Katara asked. I mean, if we all felt the Shredder return, maybe he did too. The Tribunal did train him as well. Leo was among the first to get serious. Dawn, call him and Karai up right now. Already on it. Dawn was at the computer station of the lair and trying to get in contact with Karai's residence. Why is he with Karai again? Mikey asked. Don't you remember, Mikey? Zuko recalled. After that whole mess with Bishop, Aang went to Karai's place to see if he can help look through Chirel's records for any kind of weakness the Demon Shredder had. Well, I'm hoping we found something, because we might just be out of time. Toph commented as the group gathered around Dawn as he successfully made contact. Karai, Aang, are you guys there? Dawn asked as their faces became clear on the computer screen. Donatello, we are here. We read you. Karai reported. Guys, we might have a bit of a problem, Raph tried to say something. I know, the Shredder is back. Aang revealed as his face became both grave and serious at the same time. Looks like you felt it too. So, what's our plan? Mai asked. Did you guys find anything? We have yet to find any specific weaknesses the Tengu Shredder may have. Karai reported. However, Dr. Chaplin and Leatherhead believe they have found a way to create a weakness. What do you mean? Leo asked for clarification. Apparently, they're making some kind of magic tech, I think, that might be able to hurt the Shredder. Aang revealed. They're working on it right now. Hold on. Sokka rushed up to the screen with a comically angry face. You guys are working with magic technology and didn't even think about inviting me. Not the time, Sokka. Suki pulled him away. You think it would be enough to kick Buckethead's bucket? Toph asked. I do not know, we haven't exactly had the means to properly test it. Karai answered. Aang, listen. Master Splinter began. Your friends and fellow acolytes have all shared a vision. From what we've gathered, the Shredder will target you. It would make sense. Azula added. It was an avatar that helped to defeat him in the past. Even with the Tribunal gone, the current avatar who was trained by the Tribunal would represent the greatest threat. Yeah, I figured, like with the Fire Nation, huh? Though Aang meant it as a joke, there winces and uncomfortable looks shared by Zuko, Mai, Ty Lee, and even Azula. But I'm not running from him. If he wants to fight me, I'll give him a fight. That took all his friends by surprise. What? Are you serious? Raph exclaimed. Aang, no. Katara also exclaimed, greatly worried for him. Despite the protests from all his friends, Aang spoke both calmly and assertively to get their attention. Guys, listen to me. This isn't just me being the Avatar and wanting to bear the world's responsibilities on my shoulders again. We have a plan, he said, referring to himself and Karai. What kind of plan? Leo asked. Think about it for a minute. Aang began. The Shredder's been dead for over 17 centuries, and he only just woke up, right? So, maybe his power's been weakened from all that time. There's no way he's at his full strength now. I have already made contact with the mayor and requested the city be evacuated. Karai began. And though they are only prototypes, my own foot soldiers will soon be outfitted with Chaplin and Leatherhead's mystic weaponry. We are preparing an ambush for the Shredder as we speak. The young acolytes and their friends shared surprised looks with one another. Did you actually think that through on your own, Aang? Dawn asked. Yeah, though Karai helped. Aang answered. I must admit, that's actually a pretty clever plan. Azula commented. But still, we're not letting you face that monster alone. Katara said to Aang. That's right, the Ninja Tribunal trained all of us. Leo voiced, his face becoming determined along with everyone else. It's time to put that training to use. Yeah, if we all gang up on the Shredder, we got a shot at taking him down. Toph punched her fist into her palm. Ah yeah, Team Avatar Turtle is back. Sokka exclaimed. Let's kick some magic butt. Aang, we'll be there as soon as we can. Zuko said. The Ancient One just returned along with Appa, we shouldn't be long. Alright. Aang nodded. I'll be waiting for you guys, but if he shows up before you guys do, I am going to fight him. Try not to hog all the glory till we get there, kid. Raph cracked as Aang and Karai shared smirks of their own. Katara placed her hand on the screen. Be careful, Aang. You too. Aang nodded before Karai turned the screen off. Well, what are we waiting for? Mikey asked. Let's get going. My sons, Master Splinter spoke to them before they could make a move to leave. All of you, this may be the most difficult battle you have ever faced, promise me that you will watch over each other. Yes, Master Splinter. All four of the turtles, along with Zuko, Katara, Sokka, and Toph all said as they bowed their heads. Azula however remained the most conflicted out of everyone. Alright, time to go. Mai said as she, Suki, and Ty Lee were about to join them, but Zuko held his hand out to stop them. Mai, I think you and the others should probably stay here. The young Fire Lord told his girlfriend and friends, much to their surprise. What? But we can help you. Suki quickly said. No, I'm afraid you cannot. Iroh shook his head. As talented as you three are, you have not received any sort of mystic training from the Tribunal. You would not last long in this fight. Iroh might be right, guys. Ty Lee said to Mai and Suki. And, if I'm being honest, the last Shredder was enough to traumatize me, I don't wanna be anywhere near this one. It's alright, you guys don't have to come. We can handle this, Leo said, referring to himself and fellow acolytes as they all turned to leave. Be careful, young ones. Ancient One advised. You face the darkest of all evils. And no matter what you've all experienced in the past, nothing can prepare you for him. Despite that, the 9 acolytes solidified their shared resolve as they collected their respective mystic weapons and went to leave the lair. However, Azula appeared the most frightened as her whole body shook. However, Zuko put a hand on his sister's shoulder as he gave her a comforting expression. All Azula did was hold onto his hand and close her eyes before taking a deep breath to calm herself slightly as they caught up with everyone else, leaving Master Splinter, Iroh, the Ancient One, Suki, Ty Lee, and Mai alone in the lair, all of them looking with worry at their friends and family as they left the lair. "Come slaves," the demon Shredder said to his 5 heralds as they left the roof of the Chrysler building to hover in the air over Manhattan. "Let us venture forth and survey the first world that shall become part of my cosmic empire. What a pleasure it will be, to tear down the borders that separate the worlds of the Nexus and mold them all together into one world, my world. This island is the perfect place to begin, the moats on all sides make it easy to defend. Master, there is first the matter of the current avatar," the Metal Mystic stated. "Yukyu's successor, Avatar Aang. He was trained directly by your greatest adversaries, the Ninja Tribunal." The Water Mystic added, "Trained specifically to slay you. That boy's very existence is a threat to you." The Fire Mystic also said, "You must first deal with him." That commented only caused irritation for the reincarnated demon. "I must." The Shredder turned around and blasted all 5 of his minions back with his dark magic, slamming them back to the roof of the Chrysler building. "I must do whatever I please." "Yes, forgive us," the Earth Mystic said as he and his brothers quickly bowed on their hands and knees. "Mercy, Master," the Fire Mystic pleaded. You amuse me," the Shredder said. "Though, if this avatar was indeed trained by Khan and the others to destroy me, then perhaps I should see to him. Once that obstacle has been removed, I will bring a reign of chaos onto all existence. The entire cosmos will quake at the mere mention of my name." With that declaration, the Tengu Shredder began his slow and dramatic descent towards the streets of New York with the 5 mystics at his beck and call. Once the citizens saw the 6 monsters descending toward them, they all screamed and backed away in fear. Several drivers had to stop their cars, only to get rear-ended by those behind them as all the people got out of their cars to run away along with the pedestrians as the sight of the hovering demon Shredder who just seemed to radiate fear. The Shredder flicked his hand to send a bolt of dark green energy at a car, causing it to explode and send it crashing into 3 other cars to create a wreck. The Shredder gave an amused chuckle as he flicked his other hand to obliterate a nearby newsstand the same way. "I'd forgotten what an endless source of entertainment this world is," the Shredder mused as he and his minions passed by the Atlas statue, which he promptly destroyed with another flick of his hand. "What memories this brings back." He began to reminisce in a sadistic sort of way. "The fear, the destruction, the agony. I feel truly inspired. Now, let us go give our regards to this, Avatar Aang," he said as his eyes began to glow a more vibrant red. Appa soared across the cloudy skies of New York, all 9 of the acolytes riding on the mighty sky bison with Leo sitting at the reins. "So, this is what it's like to ride on a sky bison," Azula observed as she ran her hand along the clouds. "Impressive. Yeah, way better than those clunky airships, Princess," Mikey joked. "Pretty soon though, science might invent something that can fly even faster," Sokka put in. "Technically, we already got airplanes and helicopters in our world," Don said. "I meant in our world," Sokka corrected. "Well, I'll pass," Toph said. "Flying's not one of my preferences." "Guys, focus, remember the plan," Katara chastised. "Right, get to the foot building, meet up with Aang and Karai, and prepare our ambush." Zuko nodded. "Then we load up on magic and anti-magic tech and blast the bad guys to Kingdom Come." Raph smirked. "You make it sound so easy," Azula commented. "I'm certain that what's coming will be anything but easy. We should be there soon, so everyone be ready," Leo told the group. However, Appa picked up some familiar scents in the air, causing the sky bison to growl as it shot down through the clouds, much to the group's shock. "Whoa, what's going on?" Toph exclaimed as she held onto the saddle with everyone else. "I don't know," Leo exclaimed as he tried to pull up on the reins. "Appa, come on, we need to go up." Yip. Despite that however, Appa still made his way down through the clouds and straight toward the burning street below. Appa landed hard on the ground, shaking up the street, and almost throwing the Aquilets out of the saddle upon landing. Though most were shocked, Azula seemed the angriest. "What in the world is wrong with you?" she exclaimed to Appa directly, crawling up to Ai's head and looking at in the eye. "Are you trying to get us killed?" Appa didn't even bother listening as the mighty sky bison glared and growled in the direction in front of him. Everyone else turned to see what Appa was looking at, or rather, who. 6 figures that floated in the air, and though 5 were unmistakably the heralds they all encountered before, there was one that stood out above the rest. One that made Leo, Katara, Raph, Zuko, Dawn, Sokka, Mikey, and even Azula's faces run cold as each of their hearts skip a beat. Though Toph was unable to see, she used her Kai-enhanced senses to get a reading on the aura of the being they were all seeing, and she could tell just from feeling the tainted aura who it was that they were all looking at. "Please tell me that's not who I think it is," Mikey said with a gulp. "That's exactly who you think it is," Leo said. "The original Shredder. That's him." Sokka already had sweat pouring down his face, even Azula was visibly terrified. "And he's got those mystics that destroyed the tribunal with him," Raph said with a glare and clenched fist. "Good. I've been wanting a rematch with those bastards." Toph growled as she punched her fist into her palm. "Same here," Katara agreed as she not only remembered the heralds they did when attacking the tribunal, but how they impersonated her mother and almost tricked her into turning on her friends and family. "Looks like Appa's been wanting a rematch too," Zuko observed as he could hear the Sky Bison's growls with everyone else. Dawn looked past the Shredder and his minions as he casually laid waste to the area around him and saw their destination, the Foot Tower. "They're heading for Karai's. He'll be on her and Aang in minutes. Then we don't have time to waste, let's go," Leo said as he snapped the reins. "Come on Appa, we have to go help Aang." "Yip yip." Though it was reluctant, Appa gave an affirmative growl as he took to the air once more and flew above the Shredder and his heralds, however this did not go unnoticed by the resurrected demon. "A Sky Bison," the Shredder observed. "I haven't seen one in many centuries." "Master, it is the steed and pet of the Avatar," the Wind Mystic informed. "Is that so?" The Tengu Shredder mused with a chuckle as he used his dark magic to telekinetically lift several trucks and cars from the streets. Fortunately the people had gotten out just in time. "Someone should swat it like the insect that it is. And I think it will be me." He used his magic to throw at least a dozen vehicles through the air straight towards the Sky Bison. Raph was the first to notice the projectiles. "Ah shell, incoming." Leo tried to steer Appa out of the way as everyone else screamed and held onto the saddle or each other as the mighty Sky Bison did his best to avoid the flying cars and trucks that were launched at him like a series of missiles. Though there were a few close calls, Appa and all his passengers were able to avoid the attack as they successfully made it to the foot building, albeit coming in for a hard landing on the helicopter pad area. "Is everyone alright?" Leo asked as the group groaned and gave voices to show that they were all in one piece at least. "That was way too close," Katara said as they all got down off Appa's saddle where Karai's own foot soldiers had come out to greet them. "Greetings, Mistress Karai is expecting you," one of the foot agents said with a bow of his head. "Thank you, take us to her and Aang," Zuko said as they were all led inside. Karai and Aang both stood together in the central control room where they were observing the security footage of everything that was taking place around the building, including their friend's arrival, which was something of a comfort to both of them. "Mistress, the mayor is on line 3. One foot agent reported. Connect us," Karai ordered as Aang stepped back to allow Karai to handle this as an image of the mayor was brought up on the main screen. "I don't know how much longer I can keep my people back, Ms. Sake," the mayor stated. "It's mayhem over at your place. Do not worry about me, you just see to it the city is evacuated as I requested," Karai told him. "Yes, well evacuating a city of over 8 million is a lot more difficult than it looks," the mayor replied. "Then get in contact with the Justice Force and ask for their assistance," Karai said. "I am counting on you, Mr. Mayor. There will be an extra deposit in your Swiss account." "Oh, well, I'll get right on it then." The mayor then hung up. Karai gave a sigh as she rubbed her hand down her face and spoke to Aang as he approached. "If there is one thing I do not like from my current position, it's all the politics I have to deal with." Aang chuckled slightly as he rubbed the back of his head with Momo perched on his shoulder. Yeah, tell me about it. Zuko and I have had to deal with a lot of that stuff since the war ended. Well, I'd rather deal with that than another end of the world scenario. Zuko said as he and the other acolytes walked into the control room. Katara wasted no time running to embrace Aang, who returned with an embrace of his own. I'm glad to see you guys all here, but with Appa I thought you'd be here a bit sooner. Aang said. Don't ask. Leo replied as most of the group gathered to discuss a plan, all the while Sokka looked around at the room he was in with a feeling of awe and nervousness around him. Sokka, we're over here. Toph called to him. Sorry, it's just, I never thought I'd see the day we can just walk causally into the Foot headquarters without a bunch of crazy ninjas trying to kill us. Sokka put in. Yeah, if you'd told me we could do that about a year ago, I never would have believed it. Mikey agreed. Look, as fun as it is to reminisce about the good old days, we got bigger problems right now. Raph stated. How soon till the Shredder gets here? Don asked one of the Foot technicians at the monitors. Less than 5 minutes at the most. Get me Dr. Chaplin and Leatherhead. Karai ordered as one of the Foot technicians turned on communications. Chaplin, Leatherhead, Zuko and the others have arrived. What is your status? We're working as fast as we can, Mistress. Chaplin's voice replied through the communications. We're just making last-minute calibrations. Yeah, not to rush you guys, but the biggest bad guy in existence is practically at our doorstep. Toph shouted. I am sorry, but this is delicate work. Leatherhead's voice reported. Nobody has ever tried this magic technology before. It is taking more time than anticipated. Mistress Karai, the enemy is here. One Foot technician reported as he brought up security footage of the main gate outside the Foot building, where the group could already see the demon Shredder and his heralds were literally at the front door, causing most of the acolytes to look in fear, while Leo, Karai, and Aang appeared the most serious. Time is the one thing we do not have. Karai told them as she donned a prototype sword made from the magic technology they were working on. Do what you can and get here, the fight is upon us. We'll be there as soon as we can. I promise. Chaplin reported before logging out. So, looks like this is it, huh? Sokka said as the acolytes readied themselves with their respective weapons. None of them could contain how nervous they were all feeling, even Aang. But despite that, they would not back down as they made their way outside. Aang even set Momo down on the ground so that his beloved lemur would not get involved. Come on, let's not keep him waiting. Aang said as all 11 of them walked outside. The Tengu Shredder and his mystics hovered outside the Foot building's main gate, having just arrived. This is the Avatar's fortress. The Shredder questioned as he was ready to blow the entrance to pieces. How pathetic. However, before he had the chance, a gust of wind had shot straight down toward him, which he was able to easily block with a barrier of his dark magic. The Shredder looked directly up the tall building. His own demonic senses could already see the glaring face of Aang staring down at him from the top as he walked backwards, silently challenging the resurrected demon to come and face him. A challenge he was willing to oblige as he and his herald shot straight up toward the roof. Avatar Aang stood in the rooftop garden of the Foot headquarters as he glanced upward to see the Tengu Shredder rise and meet him face to face with the 5 mystics right behind him. The resurrected demon hovered above the Avatar as a silent declaration of his superiority. You must be Avatar Aang. The Shredder greeted. Your face may be different, but I can sense the same power that Yukio once wielded as well. You are truly her successor. Oroku Sake, I presume. Aang stated. That name no longer holds any meaning for me. I abandoned it along with the chains of my humanity. I am, now and forever, the Shredder. We already know who and what you are, and what you're capable of. Aang replied. And we won't let you do to our worlds what you tried to do 1700 years ago. We? Shredder questioned with a raised eyebrow. Us. Leo declared as he stepped out alongside Karai, Katara, Raph, Don, Mikey, Zuko, Toph, Sokka, and Azula, each of them bearing their weapons as they faced the ultimate evil that hovered above them all. Though the mystics all glared at the young warriors, Shredder seemed rather amused. I see before me children and freaks, who even carry the fangs of the dragons. Could you be the students of the Ninja Tribunal? He mused with a chuckle. How amusing to think my old friends would be foolish enough to send children into battle for them. You know, the last buckethead called us kids too, and we ended up kicking his ass. Toph stated. We'll kick yours too. Shredder gave a scoff. I am well aware of the wretched usurper you have defeated. And let me assure you, that whatever power the imposter claimed to possess is nothing to what I have at my own fingertips. But it doesn't matter, facing you insects is beneath me. Shredder extended his hands and casted bolts of dark magic directly on all the young warriors, excluding Aang. Though Karai quickly drew her magic tech sword to slice and block the bolt shot at her, the turtles and the rest of Team Avatar were answered by the Shredder's grip and sent crashing into the main chambers inside. Dispose of those weaklings. Shredder ordered his heralds as they bowed their heads and flew into the building after the acolytes. However, before the demon could react, Aang had already used airbending to shoot himself at the Shredder, surprising him as Aang coated his right fist with rocks and slammed it into his helmeted face before adding extra power to it with a fire blast from the same fist to send Shredder crashing into the garden, leaving a trail of destruction as he skidded to a halt. The demon Shredder picked himself up as he glared at Aang, who landed in front of him. You can attack me all you want. But nobody, and I mean nobody, hurts my friends and gets away with it. With every word, you call upon yourself an ever more terrible fate, boy. The Shredder struck with a series of dark magic bolts. Though Aang was ready to defend himself, Karai quickly rushed in front of him as she brought her magic tech blade out to slice and deflect all the bolts. Karai, Aang stated in surprise before running next to her. You should help Katara, Leo, and the others. No, I will stand by your side and help you slay this monstrosity. Karai stated before turning to Aang with a smile. That's what friends do, right? Aang smiled and nodded. Right. The two faced the demon Shredder together as he hovered in the air above them. Stand together, die together. He shot two large beams of dark magic at them, forcing them to scatter as Aang was the first to recover before leaping into the air to deliver a sweeping kick to send a horizontal wave of fire, which Shredder responded with a thrust of dark magic that intercepted the wave to create a blast mixed with fire and darkness. Leo, Katara, Zuko, Raph, Toph, Dawn, Sokka, Mikey, and Azula were quick to recover as they found themselves in the main chambers of the Foot Fortress with the 5 mystics hovering above them. Well, looks like we got that rematch, Toph. Raph asked as he drew Banrai. That sounds fine with me. Toph said as she held Yama in both her hands. Now acolytes, join your beloved tribunal, in the afterlife. The fire mystic exclaimed as he shot a large column of fire at them, forcing the acolytes to scatter as they went on the attack. You guys are not standing between us and Aang. Katara exclaimed as she drew Arashi, her navy blue aura and markings glowing as fired a series of water arrows at the earth mystic, who created a barrier of moving rocks around him to protect him from the attack before he shot the rocks at Katara as they condensed into a massive stone fist. However, Mikey was able to use his mystic speed to pull Katara out of the way just in time as he drew his own weapon. In Azuma, Mikey shot a large bolt of orange lightning from his Fang of the Dragon, which scored a direct hit on the Earth Mystic and sent him crashing to the ground. Leo drew both his katanas as his own blue aura and markings began to glow. He rushed directly toward the Metal Mystic, who shifted both his arms into blades and locked them with Leo's swords, the two engaging in a brutal clash of metal. Leo ducked underneath one slice and dealt a kick to the Metal Mystic's chest to knock him back, but he produced 4 more bladed arms from his chest and launched all 6 at Leo. Fortunately, the eldest Ninja Turtle channeled his Kai to increase both his speed and strength before he rushed at the enemy Mystic again, batting away the metal arms with his swords before rushing past him and slicing all his arms off. The Metal Mystic growled as he quickly regrew his arms from liquid metal. The Fire Mystic hovered in the air above Raph and Toph as he threw a multitude of fireballs at the pair, with the fireballs tracking them like a series of homing missiles. Even as Toph erected an earth wall to protect herself, the fireballs all flew above it and straight down toward her. She tried to swing Yama at them, but this only caused them to explode and send her crashing through a wooden pillar. Raph growled as he saw his sister in arms hurt like that. You're gonna pay for that, hothead. Banrai. He channeled his Kai, causing his red aura and markings to form as he spun his body like a massive shuriken and sent himself at the Fire Mystic, who tried to counter him with a large stream of flame. However, this appeared to leave him vulnerable for a green shockwave to travel across the air and strike him in the back, causing him to lose focus as Raph shot past him, grazing the fire mystic's chest as he hit the ground. "I ain't going down so easy," Toph said as her body was already covered with her own green aura and markings before she slammed Yama on the ground to send 2 large shockwaves straight towards the fire mystic, though he quickly leapt into the air and flipped above the incoming Raph before he sent another series of fire balls at them, forcing them on the defensive once again. Dawn and Sokka both stood together to face the water mystic as he extended both his arms to send 2 elongated water surges at them. Fortunately, it seemed they were both ready as they each shined their respective purple and silver aura and markings. By Akko, Dawn spun his weapon to not only block the water stream aimed at him, but also send an opposing attack of purple wind to blast the water back. Hikari. At the same time, Sokka sliced his blade to send a wave of silver light to slice through the water stream and straight at the enemy. Both his and Dawn's attack hit the water mystic dead on and sent him crashing back. Though he was quick to recover as he created a large water wave behind him and sent it rolling towards Sokka and Dawn, forcing them to use their mystic powers and weapons to try and defend themselves. Lastly, the wind mystic shot a powerful cyclone towards Zuko, whose body was already glowing with his vibrant red aura and markings as he readied his weapon. Gunshin. He shot his blade forward to send a massive column of white flame at the wind mystic. Though the white flame was powerful enough to blast back the wind mystic's power, the enemy was quick to erect a powerful air sphere around him that seemed even stronger than one Aang would make as it blocked and deflected the white fire around him. Azula tried to leap up and get the drop on the wind mystic from behind as her azure blue aura and markings began to glow. Hino Arashi. She spun her body corkscrew style like a missile as it surged with blue lightning and fire, drilling through the wind mystic's air sphere. However, the wind mystic's body turned into tangible wind as he simply allowed Azula to pass through him before solidifying and blasting a cyclone at Azula from behind, sending her crashing into Zuko. "I forgot how tough these guys were," Zuko commented as he stood up with his sister and regrouped with their friends and fellow acolytes. "You're not getting nervous, are you?" Azula asked her brother. "No, you," he replied back. Azula didn't quite answer right away as she looked away slightly. "Maybe a little bit." The mystics regrouped as well as they hovered above the gathering acolytes. "You shall not interfere," the earth mystic told them. "The Avatar will meet his end this day," the metal mystic declared. Back outside, Aang soared through the air with an air scooter on his feet as the Shredder flew in pursuit after him. The Shredder casted more bolts of dark magic at him, which Aang was able to deflect and intercept with a wave of flame before going on the offensive and shot straight at Shredder to throw a fire fist attack him, but Shredder was easily able to catch the fist in his hand before delivering a knee to Aang's stomach and slamming both his fists down on Aang's back to send him crashing to the rooftop garden. However, Aang wasn't done yet as he quickly got back up and shot multiple rocks from the ground at Shredder at rapid pace as the demon flew down toward him. Shredder coated both his arms in dark magic as elongated claws of the same substance grew from both his gauntlets, which he used to slice through each before landing on the ground to slice at Aang. Fortunately, the Avatar used airbending to jump back and gain some distance. However, before the Shredder could give pursuit, Karai zoomed in from the side and sliced at Shredder with her blade, actually doing damage as a cut was shown clear across his chest plate, much to his irritation. Karai tried to press the advantage but the Shredder shot more dark bolts at her, forcing her on the defensive with her magic tech sword. With Shredder focused on Karai, it left him vulnerable for Aang to come up from behind as he used waterbending to pull out water from a nearby pond and wrap around his arms in the form of tendrils which he used to encircle Shredder by his neck and waist. He pulled Shredder directly at Aang who had an air sphere condensed in his hand, which he shot into Shredder's chest as he got close, blasting him high into the air. The Tengu Shredder was able to recover while in the air however, but before he could make any kind of counter move, the demon heard a roar from behind and turned around to be greeted by the horns of Appa as the Sky Bison flew down and slammed his forehead into the Shredder to send him crashing to the ground. Appa pressed the advantage as he bit down onto the Shredder's leg and threw him around like a chew toy before sending him flying through the air. However, Shredder quickly stabilized himself as he sat on the ground to glare at the trio of Aang, Karai, and Appa as the humans glared and the Sky Bison growled. Shredder scoffed as he spoke to Aang directly. "You have the power to reshape your entire world, yet you rely on the assistance of mortals and beasts in a fight. Pathetic. There's nothing wrong with letting your friends help you. Aang responded. Something you clearly forgot a long time ago. Spare me your sentimental nonsense, boy. Shredder replied. I have no need for something so trivial with the powers that I wield. Shredder's hands surged with powerful dark magic as he shot them into the ground, creating a series of powerful waves of dark magic. Aang and Karai were able to jump back along with Appa to avoid the attack as Karai grabbed onto the Sky Bison's foot as he flew over the Shredder. Seeing an opportunity, Karai let go of Appa and let gravity take her straight down towards the Shredder as she sliced at him again with her blade, causing him a great deal of pain. Ah! The demon grimaced. What is this weapon? Karai pressed the advantage as she sliced at the Shredder, which he was barely able to block with his gauntlets before he found himself literally backed into a corner against the walls of the main chambers. No, don't. Please. Show me mercy. The Shredder appeared to beg. However, as merciful as Karai usually was, she had none to give to this monster as she plunged her blade right into his heart area, causing him to fall. You are finished, she said to him. Good riddance, demon. Aang looked in surprise at what just happened. Did she do it? He asked his Sky Bison as they both sat down on the ground. Did she beat the Shredder? However, once the helmet fell off, Karai was greeted by the human face of Oroku Sake, taking her by surprise. Father. My child, Oroku Sake said with a loving look in his eyes. Aang's eyes widened in dread. Karai, get back. That's not. But it was too late. The Shredder reached out and grabbed Karai by the throat as he revealed his true pale and demonic face, lifting her up easily in one hand as he stood back up and used the other hand to effortlessly pull the blade from his body. You mortals are such fun to toy with. It's almost a shame I have to destroy you. Using his dark magic, the Shredder had transformed Karai's blade into a living demonic serpent that seemed about as tall as she was. She backed up in fear as the serpent set its eyes on her before lunging at her, forcing Karai to roll and duck to avoid it. The Shredder gave a chuckle as he telekinetically retrieved his helmet and donned it once more. Karai. Aang was about to rush in and help her. No, Aang, I can deal with this. Karai exclaimed as she backflipped to avoid another lunge from the serpent. You just deal with the Shredder. She stated as she drew her own personal Tonto and used it to block and parry the fanged strike from the demonic serpent. Though reluctant, Aang knew Karai can handle herself and instead focused on the source of the problem as the Shredder landed on the ground to face the Avatar and his pet Sky Bison once more. 2 against 1. Now that hardly seems fair. The Shredder channeled more dark magic as he shot his hands into the ground once more. However, rather than unleashing another attack, the ground began to shake in front of him before it broke apart as a larger version of the serpent he summoned to face Karai had emerged from the ground and hovered in the air, courtesy of a large set of bat-like wings on its sides. Aang looked in surprise at this while Appa just growled even further at the new demon Shredder had just summoned. Why don't we have our pets get acquainted with one another? Shredder suggested as he pointed at the Sky Bison, commanding the large winged serpent to fly and lunge at Appa, forcing the Sky Bison to take flight as the winged serpent flew in pursuit. Appa! Aang exclaimed, but this left him vulnerable to be blasted in the back by a beam of the Shredder's dark magic. You should heed your friend's advice and stay focused on the opponent in front of you. The Shredder told him as he blasted at Aang again, who attempted to block the attack by erecting an earth wall, though it was easily shattered and sent Aang crashing near the edge of the roof. He tried to pick himself up, only for the Shredder to grab him by the shirt and lift him up to eye level. Don't tell me that is the extent of your power, Aang. The Shredder said, sounding disappointed. Your predecessor exercised more power than that, and even that alone wasn't enough to defeat me. What makes you think you can all alone when she couldn't? Aang glared at the Shredder as his tribunal amulet began to glow, along with his arrow tattoos, but not his eyes. Because I was trained to use more than just the elements. Aang replied as he blasted the Shredder back with an air sphere in his right hand, a fireball in his left. Before the Shredder could retaliate, Aang had suddenly appeared behind him with super speed and dealt a powerful punch that was strong enough to send the Shredder flying straight up into the air. The Shredder was quick to stabilize himself as he recognized some of those techniques. Hisame's speed and Chikara's strength. Aang spread his hands out as he used earthbending to pull out 2 long rods of rock from the ground before using incredibly hot firebending to melt the outer layers off and create 2 razor-sharp blades which he shaped like a pair of katana before flying straight up at Shredder as a blue aura formed around his body. Gunning straight for the Shredder as he created his own twisted sword from his dark magic, which he used to block and parry Aang's sword strikes. Junto's proficiency with weapons, as well as Khan's own spiritual power. The Shredder observed as he and Aang parried their blades in the air before locking them together. "I see, my old friends have indeed trained you well. But I wonder if they've trained you enough." With a swipe of his own sword, the Shredder had shattered Aang's makeshift blades and sent him flying through the air, though Aang was quick to stabilize himself before he used his Kai to enhance his waterbending and pull hydrogen and oxygen out of the air, merge it together, and freeze it to create a massive storm of ice blades which he shot at Shredder like a Gatling gun who tried to blast it all back with his dark magic. Back inside, all 9 of the acolytes had their respective auras and markings glowing brightly as the mystics continued to hover over them. And it would seem the fire mystic would make the first move as he created an enormous fireball over his head that almost seemed like a miniature sun which he threw at the group. Wasting no time, Zuko ran forward as he tossed Gunshin to Leo. Using his Kai-enhanced firebending, Zuko not only caught the massive fireball, but he even broke it apart and bent the flames around him in the form of a vortex. And as he did, the flames began to change color from more than just simple orange to a mixture of red, blue, green, yellow, and even purple. All of his friends, even the heralds, and especially Azula looked in shock and surprise at what Zuko was doing. Though Leo was the first to smirk as he recognized this technique when he, Aang, Zuko, and Karai visited Ran and Cha at the Sun Warrior ruins. "I've had just about enough of these guys," Zuko stated as he condensed the multi-fire attack into a small sphere and sent it straight at the fire mystic, causing it to explode and send the fire mystic skidding across the ground. "Separate and pick them off. We have to end this now," Zuko told all his friends. Leo was the first to get serious as he held Gunshin in his hands. "You heard the man. Let's do this." They all charged directly at the remaining mystics. Azula shot a series of blue fireballs at the metal mystic, who was easily able to block it by merging his arms together in the form of a metal shield and block the attack. This however proved to be a distraction as Leo appeared behind him and slashed past him to slice off the arms of the metal mystic, destroying his only defense as Leo and Azula stood together before blasting a combined attack from Gunshin and Hinoarashi, sending a merged vortex of white and blue fire and lighting, mixing heat and cold together as it scored a direct hit on the metal mystic and sent him crashing to the other side of the chamber. The wind mystic threw a cyclone towards Sokka and Dawn, but Sokka shined Hikari brightly as he spun his blade rapidly to create a shield of bright light that not only blocked the cyclone but even blinded the wind mystic, leaving him open for Dawn to hit him with his own cyclone of purple wind from Byakko, sending him crashing into the ceiling before he fell back down to the ground. The water mystic extended both his arms to send a powerful surge of water at Katara, who was able to catch it with her Kai-enhanced waterbending before turning it back on the water mystic to encompass him in a large sphere of water. However, before the mystic could make an attempt to escape, Mikey had leapt above Katara and spun Inazuma to send a bolt of orange lightning at the water sphere, electrocuting the trapped water mystic inside before the sphere exploded and the enemy fell to the ground in an unconscious state. Finally, Raph and Toph both faced the earth mystic as he punched the ground with both his fists to send 2 large rock fists shooting out of the ground straight at the two. But Raph and Toph were prepared as they struck back with their respective weapons. One hit from Banrai sent a rocking thunder through the rock fist as Yama performed a similar trick by sending a tremor through the other rock fists. Both surges of red and green energy traveled up the elongated rock arms and straight to the earth mystic, creating an explosion once they met and sent him crashing through the other pillars and into the wall on the other side of the chamber. Back outside, Aang continued his aerial clash against the Shredder, the former blasting a set of 5 fireballs at the demon-like meteorites, who was able to easily counter it with blasts of his own dark magic before he flew at Aang to clash with him again as he thrusted his hand out to send a tornado in Shredder's direction as he tried to block it with a dark energy sphere. As the Avatar and Demon Shredder continued their clash, they seemed somewhat ignorant of Appa in the middle his own clash against the massive winged serpent higher above them. The sky bison flew higher with the monster in pursuit as he swung his tail to send a wave of air to knock the winged serpent back a bit before Appa went on the offensive to ram his horned head into the face of the winged serpent. This proved to be a mistake, however, as the winged serpent was quick to recover and slap his tail onto Appa's head and send him crashing back to the roof of the foot headquarters. Karai had saw Appa crash onto the ground and would have gone to assist the fallen bison had she not been occupied with her own serpent monster that continued to lunge at her with its fangs as she was on the defensive with her only Tonto to keep the teeth at bay before backflipping to avoid the rapid strikes. Appa was about to recover, however the larger winged serpent flew down toward him and curled itself around the mighty bison's body in an attempt to squeeze it to death. At the same time, Karai tried to thrust her Tonto at her own serpent foe, but the monster pulled its head back before slamming it into Karai to knock her into a stone lamp. Before she could recover, however, the serpent quickly coiled itself around her to not only immobilize her but keep her still long enough to bite her as it pulled its head back and readied its fangs. Karai was completely surprised to find the serpent's head had been severed, its body falling down and freeing Karai from its grip as it transformed back into the broke blade that it once was. A hand was offered to help her stand back on her feet, and the hand belonged to none other than Azula as she looked expectantly for Karai to accept the gesture, which she did as she was helped back up. "Thank you," Karai said. "You saved me. Don't get used to it," Azula commented as she looked away, trying to hide something of a half-smirk, causing Karai to smirk herself. However, both of their attentions were caught by Appa's pained groaning as he was still being crushed in the larger winged serpent's grip. However, relief would come in the form of Michelangelo as he suddenly appeared above the winged serpent's head to deal a powerful blow within Azuma, causing it to loosen itself around Appa, while also leaving it vulnerable for Sokka to rush in with his own mystic speed and Hikari and decapitate the larger serpent. Its headless corpse soon vanished as Appa was able to stand back on his feet. "How ya doing, Appa?" Sokka asked. He and Mikey went up to him. "You feeling alright?" "Nice going, buddy." Mikey nodded with a smile before both of them were licked by the grateful sky bison. Back in the sky, Aang flew at Shredder again as he sent a powerful attack that mixed air, fire, and water together, which the Shredder responded with a condensed beam of his own dark magic that pierced through Aang's elemental attack and sent him crashing towards the ground. The Shredder rushed down with the intent to finish him, but he didn't get too far as he was blasted in the back by a surge of white flame, knocking him on the ground as the demon turned around to face his attacker, revealed to be Leo wielding Gunshin. But that wasn't the end of it. Zuko, Katara, Raph, Dawn, and Toph lined up next to him as they each sent a powerful attack of their own. A blast of fire from Zuko's fists, a series of water arrows from Katara's Arashi, Raph and Toph both sending tremors through the ground with their respective weapons, and a wave of purple wind from Dawn's Byakko. All the attacks hit the demon Shredder dead on and sent him flying into the air, though he was quick to stabilize himself as he looked down to see Mikey and Sokka already helping up Aang as Karai and Azula. Even Appa regrouped with everyone else to face the demon. However, rather than be intimidated, Shredder looked more amused. "Well, isn't this touching? Serving your lordship, the Avatar, to the very end. How noble." "Hey, we ain't nobody's servants," Toph stated. "You might see us as Aang's lackeys, but you couldn't be further from the truth." Dawn glared. "We're his friends," Leo stated. "Avatar or not, we never face our enemies alone or leave anybody behind. And no matter what, we don't give up." Katara glared as well. "We never gave up against the Fire Nation or the Utrom Shredder, and we're not going to give up against you." Aang stood up fully as he looked directly at the hovering demon. "You were friends once with Khan and the others, but you betrayed them for your power. This is what separates us from you, we look out for one another." However, while everyone else stood firm with Aang's declaration, Azula couldn't help but look away, not just in fear over the Tengu Shredder which she still had, but how she still didn't feel like she was part of this group. "Oh, and speaking of friends, don't expect your mystic buddies to come in and save your sorry demon butt, because we kicked theirs already," Sokka boasted with a grin. "Yeah, you might wanna rethink the help there, Shredhead." Raph smirked as well. However, the only response Shredder gave was a bone-chilling laugh. "Fools. The mystics were but the lowest of my minions," he said as a strong and ominous dark green aura began to form around him as he hovered higher in the air. I have had centuries to amaze my army, both from this world and the next. A massive sphere of the dark green energy formed around him and quickly expanded, forcing the group of heroes to shield themselves as the entire rooftop was encompassed by this powerful dark magic. Once the magic faded, it appeared that the entire rooftop was obliterated. However, the turtles, Team Avatar, Appa, and Karai all appeared unharmed as the environment around them completely changed. Gone was the large rooftop garden, and now replaced with a massive graveyard, complete with nameless tombstones and even an ominous fog. What just happened? Toph asked. Did we just get zapped to a completely different place? No, Toph. Gon said. I think the whole area just transformed into a graveyard. Azula questioned. Why? I don't know, but I've got a really bad feeling about this. Leo gulped as Aang and Katara shared nervous expressions. The fog above cleared slightly to reveal the demon Shredder as he hovered over a majority of the tombstones. Now, fallen foot soldiers, and arch-fiends of the ancient past, rise. And serve your master, once again. He extended his hands to shoot dozens upon dozens of dark magic bolts onto the ground where each of the tombstones were. Once they hit, over 100 zombified monsters began to rise from the ground, ranging from zombie samurai soldiers, undead sumo-like beings with wood sticking out of their hides, and even undead winged demons. Nearly every single one of the young heroes looked in clear horror. Even Azula was visibly shaken at the sight of the small undead army that had suddenly appeared and surrounded them. Let the entertainment begin, the Shredder declared with an evil laugh. Guys, next time I wanna see a monster movie, Mikey stuttered. Remind me I hate monsters. Did he just seriously raise an army of the undead? Azula questioned. Yep, Sokka nodded. Sure, looks that way. Gon agreed. And let me guess, we're about to charge in head on, right? Azula asked once more. Of course, we are. Karai replied. Obviously. Zuko added. Azula gave something of an annoyed sigh. Alright, might as well. Nobody said it was gonna be easy. Raph commented. If it were easy, it wouldn't be half as much fun. Toph said with a half smirk. You guys handle the zombies. Aang told his friends. I'll take care of Shredder. Just be careful, Aang, Katara told him with a nod. Well then, let's get to work. Leo stated. Every one of them drew their respective weapons or took combat stances as all of them, aside from Karai, had their amulets began to glow, followed by their respective aura and markings before they all charged head-on into the undead army. Even Appa flew straight into the air to engage several of the flying undead demons. Aang didn't waste any time entering the Avatar state as he shot directly at the Shredder with a powerful wind blast to knock him further into the sky. As Shredder stabilized himself, he saw the Avatar form an air sphere around his body before giving a roar as he shot fire out from his hands, feet, and mouth, which he condensed into a ring of flame around his air sphere. Avatar Aang then began to simultaneously pull in several rocks and form a diagonal right ring around his body as he also pulled in all the water vapor from the air to form a diagonal left ring, both rings inside his air sphere. The Shredder looked amused for a moment as, for a brief instant, he saw the image of Ryakuyu in the Avatar state as well. Finally, he stated somewhat excitedly as his whole body surged with intense dark magic before he and Aang shot at each other and clashed in a powerful explosion that rocked the entire skies. Back down below, Appa soared closer toward the ground as he snapped his jaws at the flying demons that surrounded him while also batting them away with his tail and sending air waves to knock them out of the sky, the impact from each strike easily shattering the rotting corpses of these monsters. At the same time, the combined efforts of the Karai and the Acolytes appeared to reap the same results, be they physical strikes with their hands, feet, or weapons, attacks of bending or mystical nature. Each zombie was killed with 1 or 2 hits before they fell to pieces. Sokka had used Hikari to decapitate one zombie and impaled one from behind before cutting it in half. Hey, maybe we actually got a shot at this, he exclaimed hopefully. However, that hope was dashed as the zombies he literally just killed repaired themselves and stood back up to face the terrified Sokka again. Or maybe, not. However, salvation came for Sokka in the form of a giant mutant alligator who leapt in to literally rip the zombies apart with his bare hands and claws. Leatherhead, Sokka exclaimed in surprise as it was indeed Leatherhead, only this time, he appeared to be wielding specialized gauntlets that had shining blue claws at the end. Yes, and I am not alone. Leatherhead said as multiple laser blasts rained down around the fighting acolytes. Each laser not only scored a direct hit on a zombie, but even disintegrated them on contact. Everyone looked in surprise to find the cavalry in the form of an armored Dr. Chaplain, along with a large squad of foot soldiers, each one of them bearing a large rifle that seemed technologically advanced with a glowing blue substance serving as ammunition. "Karai, we're here," Chaplain stated as he cocked his magic tech rifle. "Sorry it took so long. Apology accepted, now help us," Karai stated as she used her tanto to decapitate one zombie. "You heard the lady, open fire," Chaplain ordered as he and his foot soldiers charged and opened fire on the undead hordes with their magic tech rifles. Each blast disintegrated any zombie that was hit. Some foot soldiers even used jetpacks to gain advantage in the air and were even equipped with similar grenades. Likewise, Leatherhead pulled out a container made from the elixir that was their weapon's ammunition and bit into it to coat his teeth in the same substance. He then roared as he rushed the zombies with his magic tech gauntlets to rip all the zombies to pieces and even tore them to shreds with his jaws. Don and Zuko stood together as they looked in surprise with most of their friends. "Never thought I'd be so happy to see the foot," Don commented. "Today's been full of surprises." Zuko agreed before they resumed the fight. With the assistance of Leatherhead, Chaplain, and the armed foot soldiers, the tide quickly turned in favor of the heroes. Karai was quick to join Chaplain alongside Leo and Raph to provide cover with their respective mystic weapons as Chaplain gave Karai another magic tech blade. "The ambush is all set. Where's the shredder?" Chaplain asked. "Up there, engaging in a clash of titans with Aang." Raph pointed up toward the dances and streaks of elemental power and dark magic lighting up the sky. The shredder thrusted his hand forward to send a surge of his dark magic at Aang, still in the avatar state, who expanded his air sphere to block the attack as he zoomed in closer before shooting out blasts of fire from his elemental sphere to blast Shredder back. Pressing the advantage, Avatar Aang extended his water ring to form a tendril and ensnare Shredder by the neck and pull him in close where the Avatar coated his fists in stone from all the rocks he gathered and punched hard across Shredder's helmeted face to send him falling straight down. However, Shredder was quick to stabilize himself in the air as he saw Avatar Aang fly straight down at him. But the Shredder was prepared as a dark aura surged around him and grew to blast multiple dark magic bolts. Each bolt was tipped with a razor-sharp point which attempted to pierce through Avatar Aang's elemental sphere. Fortunately he was able to explode the sphere to blast back the attack and soar directly at Shredder with the intent on punching him, but Shredder avoided the attack and struck Aang with a gauntlet slice to his chest to knock him straight to the ground. Though bleeding, Aang stood up as he was still in the Avatar state and readied himself for the flying demon Shredder to come in for a punch, which Avatar Aang caught in his hand before throwing a punch of his own, which the Shredder promptly caught as well. Their hands locked as they pressed their strength and power against each other. The fierce glow of the Avatar's white eyes met with the sinister glare of the Shredder's red eyes as they continued to struggle against each other. The intense energy around them began to surge even more as the pure light of the Avatar met the demon Shredder's pitch darkness. The entire ground, and virtually the whole building shook from their clash. One could compare their struggle to a battle between gods. The shaking got the attention of nearly all the heroes as they looked at it in surprise and awe. They're even, Leo voiced. Even with all the training from the tribunal, Aang can only battle the Shredder on equal ground. Well then, let's uneven the odds a little bit. Toph smirked. Hey Four Eyes. She spoke to Chaplain directly. Get your little trap ready. She channeled as much of her inner Kai as she could as she brought Yama down on the ground to send an incredibly powerful tremor toward the clash between the Avatar and the Shredder, or rather to the Shredder directly. It scored a direct hit as that, combined with the power of Aang, was enough to blast the Shredder back and send him skidding across the ground. Before he could even get up, Chaplain gave the signal. He's down. Hit him now. Once that order was given, the downed Shredder was struck by bolts of energy that shocked him. Their source appeared to be invisible, only to turn visible and reveal themselves to be Foot Tech ninjas. But the bolts weren't the end of it as the Foot Tech ninjas aimed their specialized gauntlets at the Shredder, blasting him with a solidified version of the same substance that quickly began to harden around him and form a large cocoon that appeared to have completely engulfed him. With that was done, Aang dropped out of the Avatar state as everyone looked expectantly at the cocoon. So, did we do it? Did we get him? Mikey asked hopefully. Aang however is able to use his abilities to get a reading on the cocoon and could already feel the growing surge of dark magic inside. He's not down. Everyone get back now. But it was too late, the Shredder exploded out of his imprisonment to hover in the air once more as he continued to surge with his dark magic. Do you honestly believe you can mimic true magic with your toys? Exclamation mark quote. He questioned, sounding almost offended before he sent a wave of dark magic out that seemed to target all the magic tech weapons Leatherhead, Chaplain, Karai, and the Foot were wielding, resulting in them exploding. The force from all the exploding weapons not only sent their wielders crashing along the ground, but even many of the acolytes as well. Once that was done, even more undead soldiers arose from the ground with the intent to pick them all off. Katara was among those who was struggling to pick herself up, however her body was engulfed by the Shredder's dark magic as she was telekinetically pulled into the Shredder's grasp as he held her by the neck, and she got a terrified look into his red eyes. Shredder. Aang's voice rang through the air as he zoomed in front of him and glared hatefully at the demon. Put her down. Now. The Tengu Shredder however gave an amused laugh. My heralds have told me much about you, young Aang. Including the relationships you share with those closest to you, especially this one. He ran his fingers down the terrified Katara's cheeks as already tears of fear began to form in her eyes. Though she had faced plenty of monsters before, none were more terrifying than the one who literally held her by the throat. Perhaps I should allow at least her to live. She would make a fine concubine, wouldn't you agree? That really riled up Aang's nerves as he clenched his fist so tightly, his fingers might cause his palms to bleed. This reaction caused the Shredder to chuckle once more. You are angry, yet you don't dare strike me without risking her safety. The Shredder mused. Ryakuyu was much like you in that regard, refusing to use the most of her power without endangering the mortals. Why is that? Why did she, and you for that matter, seek to protect these beings? Because they are weak. Because it's the right thing to do. Aang glared. The right thing, you say? The Shredder continued. Tell me, when you step on an ant, do you feel remorse? No. Is this because you are evil, or you simply see yourself as a superior life form? All life is sacred, Aang exclaimed, even that of insects, and I won't let you stomp on them for your own amusement. You truly are Yukyu's successor as you are the student of Khan and the others, every bit as naive as they were. The Shredder commented, if we have powers that one could consider godlike, then are we not gods ourselves? Should we not be worshipped and feared as such? We're not gods, Aang stated, never taking his glare off the Shredder. I'm the Avatar, a protector of life. And you're nothing more than a monster. I'm only going to say this one more time. Put her down. You say you are a protector. The Shredder asked with curiosity. Then protect this mortal child. Stand down and allow me to finally finish you, and I will prove myself to be a demon that has some form of mercy. You'll spare her, and the rest of my friends? Aang questioned. I will. The Shredder answered. Katara looked at Aang, her eyes shaking with terror and desperation as she shook her head, silently begging him not to go through with this. However, Aang appeared to have made up his mind. All right, you win. Aang lowered his guard and fell to his knees as the Shredder hovered toward him with Katara still in his grip. Leo had used Gunshin to decapitate one zombie samurai before turning toward the scene to look in shock and surprise before running directly toward it himself. The Shredder loomed over Aang with a chuckle as Katara struggled in his grip. Aang, she was about to beg him, but he lifted his head slightly to reveal a smile and a wink. It was a good battle, Avatar Aang. The Shredder extended his free hand, surging with his power, with the intent to finish him. I'll make sure it's painless. However, Aang had other plans as he coated his right fist in a condensed vortex of wind and roared as he punched Shredder right through his abdomen, causing him to yell in pain as he dropped Katara in shock, who could only look in surprise herself. The Shredder struggled as he glared at the smirking Avatar. You deceived me. Yeah, it's a ninja thing. Aang smirked before turning serious. Leo. Now. Leonardo, glowing with his bright blue aura and markings, leapt above Aang with Gunshin in his hands, the blade lit with white flame as he slashed right at the demon Shredder. Slash. Asterisk. The blue-clad turtle slid on the balls of his feet past the Shredder. Less than a second later, the demon's head fell clean off and the now headless body fell to the ground. With that motion, all fighting on the battlefield had stopped as everybody, human and mutant, looked toward the scene in complete surprise as Aang stood up and offered the shocked Katara a hand up with a smile, which she accepted before wrapping her arms around him, which he was able to return. He shared a smile with Leo, who smiled and nodded in return. They did it, Zuko stuttered. Yeah, I think they did, Raph smirked. We won, Toph said before she began to laugh. We won, Mikey exclaimed. We won, he shouted, which resulted in cheers of victory shared by the surviving foot soldiers, acolytes, and other allies. Even Azula seemed visibly relieved. Shell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Sokka shouted. Nina turtle slice. However, the cheers seemed premature as Aang could still feel the dark presence in the air. His pupils shrunk as he quickly pushed Katara out of the way. Pierce. Asterisk. A dark red spear had suddenly appeared to stab right through Aang's chest. Both Katara and Leo looked in absolute horror as the celebrations came to a grinding halt. However, it wasn't just Aang being stabbed that horrified everybody, it's who was stabbing him. The headless body of the demon shredder had stood on its 2 feet, still clearly alive despite the fact it was missing its own head. A dark and familiar chuckle echoed throughout the air as the severed head of the shredder, still alive as well, was lifted into the air by dark green tendrils that stretched from its neck toward the base of the headless body, allowing the head to flow and reattach itself as the shredder's chuckle erupted into a full-blown laughter. It took a fully realized Avatar and the Ninja Tribunal together just to seal me away. The shredder began to speak to the stabbed and horrified Avatar directly. What makes you think a simple deception and decapitation can actually finish me? And that, I suppose, is the core difference between us, Avatar Aang. I cannot be killed, his free hand surged with dark magic. You, on the other hand. The shredder thrusted his hand forward to unleash a massive blast of dark magic to completely engulf Aang and send him flying before falling and skidding to a halt on the ground, where a small puddle of blood was already formed and his eyes closed, his body covered in scratches, bruises, and burns. Aang! Katara screamed as she and Leo ran past the shredder directly to him. The evil demon gave another laugh as he rose another wave of soldiers in an attempt to wipe out whatever resistance that remained. Within mere seconds, all the foot reinforcements, save for Chaplin and Leatherhead, were ripped apart and killed viciously. Katara and Leo were the first to get to Aang's downed body, followed by Appa, as well as Karai, Raph, Sokka, Toph, Mikey, Don, Zuko, Azula, Chaplin, and Leatherhead. Katara immediately held onto his body as tears were already flowing down from her face, everyone else looking visibly terrified as Appa tried to protect the group from the closing zombies. No, please no, not again, Katara muttered as she tried to heal him with her waterbending. Don kneeled down to inspect Aang's unconscious body. He's alive, but he's lost a lot of blood. Hang on, I've got something that could at least seal the wound. Chaplin pulled out a tiny blowtorch to try and cauterize the wound. You might not have time for that, Zuko exclaimed as they were already completely surrounded, and despite having their weapons at hand, none of them could help but feel the intense despair and dread that had fallen on them. This is bad, this is really, really bad, Sokka gulped. It's Ba Sing Se all over again, Raph exclaimed. Oh man, we're all alone now, Mikey began to speak in clear terror. Aang is down, we're surrounded by literal zombies, and here comes big, dark, and scary. He exclaimed as the demon shredder hovered above them. There's no way we stand a chance now. Michelangelo, for once I completely agree with you. Azula didn't even bother to hide her terror. In fact, I'm not sure we ever had a chance. Is this really how we're gonna go out? Raph questioned. Well, at least we had a good run, Toph voiced, though this was not the way she had hoped to meet her end. If we die, I am at least honored to die with those I care for. Karai seemed to accept their fate. Yes, I agree. Leatherhead was also in acceptance. However, Zuko was among those that wasn't about to give up. If I'm going down, he stood up as his fiery red aura and markings began to glow with his tribunal amulet. I'm going down fighting. He thrusted both his hands upward to send a powerful stream of his multicolored fire, scoring a direct hit on the demon shredder and causing him a great deal of pain. Leo was in agreement as he began to glow as well while standing alongside Zuko. Come on, let's do this. He thrusted Gunshin forward to send a column of white flame that also hit the shredder. Katara's tearful and terrified expression became one of determination as she looked to Karai, Leatherhead, and Chaplin. "Look after Aang," she said to them, the three nodding seriously as Katara stood up next, her own navy blue aura and markings glowing brightly as she drew Arashi and launched a massive arrow of continuously streaming water at the shredder while Leo and Zuko also kept up their attacks. Everyone else followed suit as they too began to glow with their respectively colored aura and markings and went on the attack. Raph crossed Banrai and shot a stream of red thunder at the shredder. Toph spun Yama to send a surge of green tremor energy as well. Don spun Byakko and unleashed a vortex of purple wind. Sokka thrusted Hikari to send a beam of silver light. Mikey held out Inazuma to send 2 bolts of orange lightning, and even Azula thrusted Hinoarashi to send 1 stream of ice-cold blue fire and a freezing bolt of blue lightning. All their attacks condensed on the shredder and did appear to cause him pain, but it wasn't enough as he was already preparing a counterattack of his own. Poor, pathetic, little nothings. He unleashed a massive blast of his dark magic which completely blew away the combined attacks of the 9 acolytes and sent them crashing across the ground along with Appa, Karai, Leathered, Chaplin, and the gravely injured Aang. Well, that didn't work, Toph stated. However, Leo still wasn't about to give up as he was the first to stand up. "Come on guys, remember what the Ninja Tribunal taught us. This isn't about how much power you command, it's about the strength you have inside. We have to focus." He was the first to focus his own inner Kai and resume his glow. "Leo's right. Remember our training." Don began to glow as well. "That's right, we didn't come all this way for nothing." Zuko also began to glow. "We're all going to make it out of here, with Aang and all our friends." Katara began to glow as well. "Time to wipe that smirk off Shredhead's face." Toph stated as she began to glow as well. "The tribunal trained all of us. Time to show off those results." Sokka was glowing too. "Well, I didn't read all those books for nothing, I guess." Raph was already glowing. "I didn't even read any of those books." Mike was still rather scared, and even Azula was right there with him. "Is this going to change anything?" The former Fire Princess voiced her feet. "We're not the Ninja Tribunal, or even the Avatar, we can't." However, Zuko stopped her as he put both his hands firmly on her shoulders. "Azula, it's alright. Don't think about any of that," he told his sister. "I'm here for you. I always will be." "It's okay, Mikey." Leo also consoled his youngest brother. "Forget about those books, just focus." Mikey was the first to calm down by his eldest sibling's reassurance. "Got it, bro. Focus." He began to glow too. Azula had to only look in her brother's fierce yet calming eyes to calm her down as she gave a small sigh and a smile. "Alright." She also focused her Kai as she began to glow as well. The Shredder had already prepared what he believed to be his final attack to wipe his enemies off the face of the earth. Farewell creatines. He threw a massive sphere of his dark magic at them, only for it to be blocked by a surging shield of energy that not only surrounded the 9 glowing acolytes, but even Appa, Karai, Chaplin, Leatherhead, and the downed Aang. Even the Shredder did not see that coming. What trickery is this? The acolytes began to focus even more as their amulets let loose a surging bright yellow light that began to twirl around them like a vortex. Guys, why do I feel like this?" Sokka asked as they were all experiencing the same sensation. "Just keep focusing," Leo told him as all 9 of them put their hands together meditatively and continued to focus. "Just like Khan told us. Quiet your mind to unleash your spirit." Khan's voice rang through their head as the vortex began to pull the acolytes up toward the sky while Appa did his best to keep his downed master and friends protected as Leatherhead, Karai, and Chaplin looked at their ascending friends in awe. What's happening?" Mikey exclaimed. "Don't ask," Toph shouted. "Just go with it." The sky began to glow a bright and brilliant light as all 9 of the young heroes were engulfed in a bright flash that cleared away all the clouds in the sky. Once the flash had subsided, gone were the human forms of the acolytes as each of them had transformed into their own spiritual avatars made flesh. Zuko had transformed into a large lion with red fur with a mane made of golden fire with a scar over left eye. Leo had become into an enormous green-skinned dragon with a blue shell and scales and white wings. Katara had turned into a massive hawk with navy blue feathers with white tips at the wings and tail feathers, and a trail of water behind its flapping wings. Raph changed into a green-skinned dragon with 2 long tails and no legs, his say merged into his hands, bright red wings and a red shell. Toph had transformed into an enormous bear with blind eyes, dark green fur along the arms, pale brown fur at its chest, and black fur on the top of its head. Dawn had manifested into a pale green-skinned dragon with no legs or wings, a single tail, and a bright purple shell. Sokka had become a wolf with silver fur, with dark blue and black highlights along its sides and face. Mikey had transformed into a wingless, green-skinned dragon with an orange spiked shell. Finally, Azula had become a massive phoenix with bright blue feathers and wings, with an orange-red color at the head, and a trail of blue flame behind her. All the spiritual avatars of the acolytes gave their respective roars and caws as they flew, or fell in the case of Lion Zuko, Wolf Sokka, and Bear Toph, as they landed on the ground with the dragon turtles, Hawk Katara, and Phoenix Azula hovering above them, all of them standing protectively around Appa, Karai, Leatherhead, Chaplin, and the beaten Aang, all the conscious heroes looking in speechless amazement at what they had just seen. Impossible, the Shredder exclaimed. Dragons. They've all manifested their spirit avatars. He growled with anger as red eyes narrowed. I will not be defeated again. He shot a massive blast of dark magic from both his hands, which each of the dragon turtles responded with their own respective colored fire breath to not only intercept the attack, but even blast the Shredder back. Lion Zuko gave a roar as his mane extended to blast a surge of golden flame to incinerate all the undead soldiers around him. Hawk Katara flew above another cluster of zombies, giving a caw as she flapped her wings to send a massive hail of water and ice to skewer the enemies below her. Bear Toph dug her paws into the ground to create a massive hole to send at least 24 zombies falling deep inside before she closed it shut. Wolf Sokka gave a howl as he leapt with his fangs and claws to tear apart at least 12 zombies of his own. Finally, Phoenix Azula flew to meet several flying demons before she spun her body like a corkscrew to unleash several bolts of lightning, each scoring a direct hit to completely incinerate each demon in the air. Holy crap, Chaplin muttered. Truly amazing, Leatherhead voiced his thoughts as even Karai nodded in agreement while still holding the downed Aang close. Even Appa gave a proud roar to the enormous spiritual avatars, who replied with roars or caws of their own. Meanwhile, the mystics had awoken from their previous fight and looked in surprise to see what their master was facing. No, this is not possible. The metal mystic exclaimed. The children have manifested their avatars. The water mystic voiced in disbelief. And the turtles, the earth mystic couldn't believe it either. Have become dragons. Even the fire mystic was beyond stunned. However, despite the 9 spirit avatars facing him, the demon Shredder refused to be intimidated. There is no reason to fear these tiny manifestations. In direct response to that statement, each of the dragon turtles unleashed their colored fire breath attacks again as Lion Zuko, Bear Toph, Hawk Katara, and Phoenix Azula also unloaded their respective elemental attack. And even Wolf Sokka gave a howl that sent waves of light energy to add onto it. All the attacks hit the Shredder and the Mystic's head on to send them falling and crumbling into the building, straight down to the ground floor to be buried in the falling rubble that fell down with them. All 9 of the spirit avatars circled the hole to look down and observe their work briefly before they were each engulfed in a respective glow of their own color and turned back to their normal human or mutant turtle forms. That was awesome. Mikey exclaimed. Shell yeah. Toph shouted as well. Go Team Magic Avatar Turtle. Sokka also exclaimed as he and Katara shared a hug. What just happened? Don asked, though he was more than a little amazed himself. I don't know, but I liked it. Raph smirked. Azula looked at her own hands as an excited smile formed on her face, not a malevolent or even a deranged smile, but one out of pure joy and amazement. Zuko put a hand on her back as he smiled at her. Azula smiled back before she leapt at her brother and wrapped her arms around him. Though surprised by this gesture, Zuko was quick to smile and return to the hug as well. However, their excitement and happiness were brought to an end by a familiar groan as Leo and Katara were the first to turn to Karai, who carried the beaten and barley living Aang, with Leatherhead and Chaplin right next to her, and Appa right behind them. Even Momo had finally revealed himself as he landed on Karai's shoulder and looked at Aang with worry. We have done what we can, Karai said as everyone gathered together. But he needs medical treatment right away. Then let's get out of here. Leo stated as a worried Katara caressed her hand across Aang's face. I don't think Appa's gonna be able to carry all of us. Mikey said. He looks really beat. Do we have a backup plan then? Azula asked. I called April before we left and told her to prepare the turtle copter and have it on standby just in case. Don said as he already gave the call on his shell cell. Way to think ahead. Zuko nodded as they could already see the approaching helicopter nearing their location. It quickly set down on what was left of the hover pad as all the heroes quickly boarded with their gravely injured Avatar friend before the helicopter took off with Appa flying right behind it. Meanwhile, deep in the ruined tower of the Foot headquarters, the rubble on the bottom floor all began to shake and quake before it finally exploded out to reveal the demon Shredder and his heralds all shooting straight up back to the roof through the hole they all fell through. It wasn't long before all 6 of them had made it back to the rooftop only to see their prey had already left. They have escaped, the Wind Mystic exclaimed, with the Avatar. However, the demon Shredder wasn't too worried about it. Let them run. I will not waste my time searching for that boy if he survived, not when he and his companions will come to me. He took the moment to overlook New York. This world is very different from the one I once knew. But I will not change to suit it, it will change to suit me. Soon, the glory days of my feudal empire will be restored. Soon, this city shall become my citadel, and from there, I will spread my grip over this entire world. Once this realm is under my control, I shall seize the Nexus and spread my influence through it onto every world that it is connected to. And, I shall reshape all existence into a dark chaos. Ha 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 ha. As Appa continued to fly outside alongside the turtle copter, Aang had already been placed on a medical bed in the back, his arm hooked up to an IV as most of his friends, even Azula, oversaw his recovery with Katara already using her waterbending to try and heal him. At the same time, Casey, Iroh, Splinter, and the Ancient One looked out the window to see the lightning flashing from the clouds above them. Looks like a storm's coming. Casey observed. No, it is already here. Splinter replied gravely. Chapter 12, Fathers and Sons. The group consisting of Team Avatar and the Turtles had returned to the lair along with Karai, Leatherhead, Chaplin, Iroh, and Master Splinter. Mai, Ty Lee, and Suki wasted no time in helping their friends to recover, though it seemed Aang needed help the most. Fortunately for him, Katara's healing abilities had helped get him out of the worst of it, but he still laid unconscious on the couch in the living area of the lair. He was even given an IV as he laid, but what was most odd about his condition was that his tattoos were glowing. Don looked him over as he addressed all his friends and family who sat or stood in the main chambers of the lair. Alright everyone, I got good news and bad news. Good news is, Aang will survive. Thank goodness. Katara breathed a sigh of relief as everyone else looked more than a little relieved as well. Bad news is, I don't know when he'll wake up. Don said, causing their smiles to fade. But, the fact that his arrows are glowing shows that he's at least conscious, within his own mind I don't quite understand how it works. If his arrows are glowing, wouldn't that mean he's in the Avatar state? Azula asked. No, he's in the spirit world. Zuko began to explain. While his body is in a dormant-like state, his spirit is elsewhere and unable to interact directly with us until he returns to his own body. I see. Azula seemed to understand. Well, he should get back soon. Raph commented. We need all the help we can get. Give him some time, Raph, the Shredder beat the shell out of him. Mikey told his brother. Was he really that bad? Ty Lee asked. You have no idea. Sokka stated. He's got all this crazy dark magic, he had an army of zombies and demons. Leo cut off his head and we even threw our spirit animal things at him and he still wasn't down. Isn't there anything we can do? Suki asked. He has to have some kind of weakness. Didn't you guys make some kind of magic tech? That seemed to hurt him. Toph said to Chaplin and Leatherhead. Yes, and while it was able to destroy many of his minions and it did cause the Shredder harm, it was unable to permanently damage him. Leatherhead answered. We're definitely going to need to do some fine-tuning. Chaplin said. What about all our allies? Where are they? This Justice Force and the White Lotus? Azula questioned. The Order of the White Lotus is gathering with as many allies as we can muster. Iroh responded to his niece as he sat on his knees alongside Splinter and the Ancient One. But with the vast army we are gathering, it is taking some time. And the justice force is working with the mayor to evacuate New York. Leo answered. But, even with all that, I'm not sure it'll be enough. Karai, didn't you say you were looking for your dad's records or something on how to stop the Shredder? Mai asked. I have. Karai nodded. Though I have been unable to find a weakness, I've managed to procure my father's personal journal. She held out a tablet-like device to show the electronic diary of Chirel. Again, I have yet to find any decisive weaknesses, but I might be able to find something. Katara gave a deep sigh. Is that really all we can do? Are we really that helpless before him? Is there any hope at all? All we can do is wait, the Ancient One said, and prepare for the battle to come. But do not fret, young ones. Master Splinter began. You have all faced impossible odds in the past, and like David facing Goliath, you overcame the challenge. He turned to one of his fellow masters. Ancient One, do you remember when I brought my sons to your home in Japan, years and years ago? The Ancient One gave a slight chuckle. How could I forget? They were such a pain. That got everyone's attention, especially the turtles. Years and years ago, Mikey asked. Wait, you guys met the Ancient One in the past? Zuko asked. Pretty sure we would have remembered that, 'cause I don't. Raph replied. What are you talking about, Sensei? Don asked as everyone gave the old masters their undivided attention, as any story he had to tell would serve as a good distraction to all the doom and gloom that was currently on their minds. Long ago, just after my beloved Yoshi's passing away, I took the four of you on a journey to Japan. As Master Splinter began to tell the story, Aang's body continued to rest and recover on the sofa while his spirit was no longer within his own body. Aang's transparent spirit appeared to be floating in a black void, his eyes remaining closed as a light soon began to shine from the sides. Aang, wake up. It's time to get up. His eyes slowly opened as he saw the transparent form of a woman floating in front of him. She had long black hair and yellow eyes with an armored dress. Who are you? I am Yukio. She introduced herself. Your past life. Aang quickly shot up in surprise. Your avatar Yukio. The one who helped the tribunal fight the Shredder 1700 years ago. The very same. Yukio smiled. Nice to finally meet you, I just wish it were under better circumstances. Aang's smile faded. I'm sorry, I couldn't beat him. I tried to fight the Shredder but, I failed. Yes, you lost the battle. Yukio nodded, while still maintain a smile. But you're not planning on giving up, are you? Of course not. Aang replied. I'm never gonna give up again, but, I need your help. Please tell me how I can stop him. Yukio's face became serious. I wish I had a solid answer to give you, but I really don't know. I can give you some advice, but I don't have a permanent solution on how to top him. At least not by myself. Before Aang could ask what she meant, someone else had appeared behind him. He turned around to see the spirit of a man he knew all too well. Master Yoshi. It has been a long time, Aang. Yoshi bowed his head with a smile. Now, if you and Yukio would follow me, there is something we must show you. His spirit began to float away, prompting Aang to follow as Yukio gave him an encouraging smile. They floated from the black void towards a bright white light. Once the light faded, the transparent forms of Aang, Yoshi, and Yukio now appeared to be inside of a cargo ship, and before Aang could ask where they were, he heard the sounds of children laughing and cheering and was beyond surprised at seeing 4 mutant turtles, in the form of toddlers, playing throughout the room. No way, are those the turtles? Do you know any other humanoid turtles? Yukio asked playfully. Aside from those evil duplicates you fought before. As Aang saw them all playing, he couldn't help but smile. Wow, they're so cute as kids. He said as he saw little Leo and little Don playing around in the hay with little Mikey drawing some pictures, until little Raph came in and snatched the crayon from little Mikey's hands, the two playing tug of war over it till little Raph was flung back, with the crayon on his hands. He gave a mocking and triumphant laugh before snapping the crayon in half, resulting in little Mikey crying. Okay, that wasn't so cute. Aang shook his head in disapproval, wanting nothing more than to scold Raph for what he did. However, Master Splinter revealed himself as he gave a SSHH to his sons, bringing their playing and crying to an end as he silently motioned for them to find cover, which they did as little Leo and little Don hid in the hay with little Raph and little Mikey hiding behind some boxes as a guard searched through the cargo hold before leaving. What's going on? Aang asked. Where are we? This is the turtles' home world. Yoshi explained. At the moment, Splinter and his sons are on a ship heading toward Japan. Aang then saw Splinter bringing out a fancy Japanese urn. Those are my ashes, Yoshi revealed, resulting in Aang looking in sympathy remembering how Yoshi was killed. Splinter's goal was to bring them to Japan, to bury them at the home of my adoptive father, the Ancient One. I see. Aang replied in a sympathetic tone. Master Yoshi, please do not take any offense to this, but why are you showing me this? No offense taken, and you will see soon. Yoshi responded. But how is this even possible? Aang asked. I thought I could only see the memories of my past lives. I remember seeing your past, but I thought that was just something with the spirit world. We are looking at the past of Master Splinter, and soon the Ancient One, through their memories. Yukio explained. It's all part of your spiritual training with Khan. The memory shifted from the cargo hold to a familiar garden and house in Japan. Aang looked around the area until he saw the back of a familiar individual who was doing laundry. It's the Ancient One. Yes, this is where he first met Splinter and the turtles. Yoshi responded. The second the Ancient One pulled down one sheet, he saw Splinter, still holding the urn, and the toddler turtles, causing him to give a yelp in surprise. Aang also saw the beard on the Ancient One's face. You know, it's kind of funny. Aang said with a half smile. It's the past, so he's younger, but seeing the Ancient One with a beard actually makes him look older. Aang joked, resulting Yukio stifling a giggle while Yoshi just shook his head with a small smile. Ancient One, it is a great honor to. Master Splinter began to bow and introduce himself, however. Bah, begone Nezumi, the Ancient One told him. I have no time today for a rat monster's mischief. He thinks Splinter is one of those rat demons. Aang asked in surprise. Well, to be fair, it's not as if he's seen any other form of humanoid rats before. Yukio replied. Point taken. Aang admitted. Wise one, please. I know I must look strange, I am Splinter. The mutant rat revealed. That took the Ancient One by surprise, not noticing the toddler turtles already running and exploring the garden. Splinter. The Ancient One voiced in surprise before turning to face him again. Splinter. You are the rat Yoshi and Tang Shen kept as a pet. How? It is a long and strange tale. Splinter began to explain as he, at this time, still didn't know all the details behind his mutation. I have gone through changes since Master Yoshi, since he couldn't finish as he looked down with a somber expression. Since Yoshi, what? How is my Yoshi? The Ancient One asked with concern, as all Aang could do was wince uncomfortably as he had an idea what was coming next. I am sorry, he has been slain. Splinter revealed, much to the Ancient One's shock. His life was taken, by the Shredder. No, the Ancient One exclaimed in denial and grief. This cannot be. He walked away and fell on his knees as he gripped the grass in frustration. No, no. Aang looked in complete sympathy as he and Yukio cast a glance at Yoshi's spirit who could only look in turmoil as well at seeing the memory of his adoptive father in such emotional pain. No parent should ever have to outlive their child. This tragedy would not be if Yoshi had heeded my wishes. The Ancient One exclaimed in frustration and grief. Stayed in Japan and joined the Ninja Tribunal. As I remember, the Ninja Tribunal is to blame. Master Splinter spoke as he let his own anger and frustration surface as well. They were asked to fight the Foot and the Shredder and did nothing. Perhaps Yoshi would be alive today if the tribunal had not been so dismissive. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Master Splinter on this one. Aang said as he turned to his past life. I'm sorry Yukio, I know they were your friends and all, but if the tribunal was more active, maybe they could have not only saved Yoshi's life, but stopped Chirel and saved so many other lives. I know they had to watch over the demon Shredder and make sure he didn't come back and all, but still. I understand. Yukio gave a small sigh herself. I don't fully agree myself on how they approached all of this. But regardless, everything happens for a reason, both good and bad. I agree. Yoshi spoke, much to Aang's surprise. I bear no grudge against the tribunal. And that is not why we are here. So why are we here? Aang asked as Yukio pointed to the toddler turtles who played and ran in the gardens. Tag. You're it. Little Raph tagged little Mikey. No way Raph. Little Mikey gave chase as their brothers also played. However, they failed to notice something else appear in the gardens and hide behind the bushes and a stone lamp. However, little Raph did appear to notice as he saw a hand on the lamp. "Hey guys, time out." Little Raph stopped the game. "Look, there's a man in the bushes over there." Aang tried to get a closer look alongside the toddler turtles. "What do you think he's doing?" Little Mikey asked. "Maybe he's lost or something." Little Don assumed. "Hey mister." Little Raph called to him, but got no response. Aang suddenly got a real bad feeling about this situation, and his instincts proved to be true as the mysterious individual was no man, or human for that matter. He appeared to be some kind of living demonic skeleton surrounded by a transparent red robe and a glowing red amulet around his neck. The living skeleton gave a roar as he scared the toddler turtles, who screamed in response. Even Aang was taken by surprise. "Is that a demon?" "Yes, the bone demon." Yoshi answered as he, Aang, and Yukyu saw the screaming toddler turtles run to their father. "It's the Boogie Man," Little Mikey exclaimed to Splinter. "Come quick, he's a skeleton," Little Don cried. "There's a ghost," Little Raph tried to tell Splinter. Splinter kneeled down to try and calm his sons. "Quiet, please. One at a time. Master Splinter, there's a scary man in that bush." Little Leo pointed toward the bushes where they saw the bone demon. Splinter set down the urn and walked over to the bushes to peek behind them, but he saw nothing. "I see nothing here," he said, much to the surprise of his sons, as well as Aang. "But he was right there." Little Mikey said. "I am sorry," Splinter told the Ancient One as he embraced his frightened sons. "They have had a long journey." The Ancient One paid a glance at the urn containing the ashes of his adoptive son. "As have you, and I truly appreciate you having come all this way on my behalf. Splinter-san, we both loved Yoshi very much," he said as he walked over and put a hand on Splinter's shoulder. "Let us pay our last respects and lay him to rest next to the woman he loved." As they walked away, Aang looked upward towards the tree to see the bone demon hiding and spying on the old masters and toddler turtles. "I don't get it. How can they not see him? He's right up there. Do you see that pendant he wears around his neck?" Yoshi pointed to the glowing amulet. "Its magic allows him to remain invisible to the wise, while only the truly innocent, such as children, are able to see past the illusion." "What exactly does that bone demon guy want?" Aang asked. "You will see," Yukyu told him. The memory soon shifted as Aang, Yoshi, and Yukyu found themselves in the room where the toddler turtles were sleeping, all save for little Mikey who was scared of the dark at such a young age. However, before Aang could ask what was going on, there was a bright red light coming from the wall on the far side, which awoke each of the toddler turtles from their sleep as they saw the bone demon walk through the wall and into their room. The toddler turtles crawled towards each other and clung to one another in fright as the bone demon loomed over them. Silence came. The bone demon told them in a whispered tone, "If you scream, I will eat your souls." He snickered as he flexed his bony hand for extra emphasis. The frightened toddler turtles looked towards each other with tearful expressions before they screamed and ran out of the room, running through the screen door in the process. Their screams brought Splinter out of his meditation as he looked up the steps to see his frightened sons run down the stairs and straight toward him, each of them burying their faces in his chest as he tried to console them. "It is all right," he told them in a soothing and comforting tone. "SSSHH, all right little ones, it is all right now." Splinter saw the Ancient One walk into the room with a concerned look on his face. "My apologies Ancient One, they are not used to sleeping alone just yet," he said before standing up and addressing his young sons. "Come along children, I will stay with you." As Splinter helped his sons back up the steps, the Ancient One gave a slight laugh and smile. "Kids," he shook his head with a reminiscent look on his face before going to get some sleep himself. "All right, did he seriously just try to eat their souls?" Aang asked, having seen the entire event play out with the spirits of Yukyu and Yoshi beside him. "No, he was just trying to traumatize them," Yukyu said with a hardened expression. "That demon is, for a lack of better term, a sadist." "I can definitely see that," Aang said with an anger-filled tone, having seen more than his fair share of demons act in monstrous ways. "I know the monks told me all life is sacred, but is it wrong that I want to make those monsters pay for what they've all done?" "There is nothing wrong with seeking justice," Yoshi told him. "You just have to be careful that it is justice you are seeking and not simple vengeance." "I understand," Aang nodded. The memory then shifted once more to the next day. It was rather early in the morning as Splinter and the toddler turtles were leaving the Ancient One's home and ready to return to New York. "Bye, Ancient One," little Leo said politely. "Don't forget to write," little Mikey also said. "What are you talking about? You can't even read yet," little Raph told his youngest brother. "Oh yeah," little Mikey replied. "Well my friends, I suppose that this is it." The Ancient One began as he and Splinter turned to face and bow to each other. "Safe journey, Splinter-san. Until we meet again, Ancient One." Splinter bid farewell as he and his sons walked down one direction with the Ancient One walking down another. However, when Little Don turned around, he gasped at what he saw. "Guys, look, there it is again." His father and brothers turned around in surprise as the toddler turtles saw the Bone Demon stalking the unsuspecting Ancient One, completely invisible to both him and Splinter. "It's the ghost," little Raph exclaimed. "Following the Ancient One," little Don exclaimed again. "What are you going on about?" Splinter questioned as he couldn't see the demon. "Master Splinter, we see a ghost." "We really do," little Leo told him. "He's like right there." Little Raph pointed to him, even though only he and his brothers could see him. "Master Splinter, can't you see him? He's right there," little Mikey also said. "I see nothing my sons," Splinter said. However, he did detect an unusual smell with his nose. "But there is a dark scent in the air. Come, let us see that no harm befalls the Ancient One." He and his sons followed the path the Ancient One took. The memory shifted once again as Aang, Yukyu, and Yoshi stood at the entrance of a familiar monastery. The Lap of the Gods. Aang had mixed feelings about seeing this place again. On one hand, he was glad to see the Tribunal Monastery still standing, but on the other, it made him somewhat sad as he knew what its future was. He paid a glance at Yukyu as she shared the same saddened look, knowing its future as well. The future of the monastery that she, her friends, and the founders of the White Lotus built all those years ago. However, their attention was caught by the Ancient One approaching the entrance with the invisible Bone Demon right behind him. The Ancient One made a series of hand gestures before the gate opened, allowing him and the stalking demon entrance into the monastery. "I don't get it," Aang said as he and his companions followed them inside. "Why is this Bone Demon following the Ancient One? What does he want?" "Think about it, Aang," Yukyu told him. "What is the purpose of the Lap of the Gods? What else is here besides the tribunal? It's where the artifacts are." Aang's eyes widened with shock and realization as a feeling of dread swept through him. "Don't tell me," he said as he looked at the Bone Demon who quickly hid behind the corner as the Ancient One walked deeper inside. "It is as you suspect," Yoshi confirmed as they saw the Bone Demon kneeling on the ground and hold the amulet around his neck. "Dark Masters." The Bone Demon made contact with those he was working for, allowing the transparent forms of the Foot Mystics, still in their ninja form, appear around him. "It's them again. The Mystics." Aang glared at the forms of the Mystics, remembering all the terrible things they did to him and his friends, while Yoshi and Yukyu had hardened expressions themselves as they watched the scene play out. "The Ancient One has finally led me to the Ninja Tribunal Monastery," the Bone Demon reported. "Excellent," the Fire Mystic replied. "The amulet we have granted you will cloak your presence there. You will remain invisible to all who encounter you, even the tribunal themselves." The Water Mystic added. "Masters, the 4 came children resisted the amulet spell," the Bone Demon told them. "They were able to see me. What if?" He was silenced by a gust of wind from the Wind Mystic. "You need not concern yourself with children," the Wind Mystic told him. "They are powerless. Find the Pool of Sorrow." The Water Mystic began to relay instructions to the Bone Demon. "Part its power with the amulet's energy. Beneath it lie the Master's gauntlet, helmet, and sarcophagus," the Earth Mystic said. "Use them to fulfill your only purpose for existence." The Metal Mystic ordered. "Resurrect the one true Shredder." "Yes," the Wind Mystic added. "Raise our Master from his long sleep so that he may once again rule in limitless power over all worlds." Aang glared at the mystics as he clenched his fists as he could only blame himself. "I should have never freed them." "You mustn't blame yourself." Yukyu put her hand on Aang's shoulder. "You did what you believed to be right, you couldn't have known about the Shredder. Even if you hadn't freed the mystics, they would have found a way on their own, just as they are doing what we are seeing now." Yoshi added. "To say they are cunning would be an understatement." Aang sighed as he knew they were right. "I get that, I know who deceptive they are, especially with what they tried to do with Katara. But I don't have to like it. The memory, once again, shifted and changed to the inside of the darkened chambers of the tribunal throne room as the Ancient One had sat on one of the seats below them. Upon seeing the tribunal again, Aang had some mixed feelings still. Though he was glad to see them alive as he did have a great deal of respect for them, he also didn't have the highest opinion with their attitude and how they are willing to sacrifice lives for their mission. He truly did understand the threat to the Shredder, but he would never sacrifice a life just to keep that resurrection from happening. We did not send for you. Why are you here, young one? Chikara questioned her former pupil. My masters, I bring grievous news. The Ancient One began. My adopted son, Hamato Yoshi, has been slain by the alien bug falsely bearing the mantle of the Shredder. We know. Khan replied, much to the Ancient One and even Aang's surprise. You know. The Ancient One voiced his surprise aloud. They knew. Aang however shook his head. Oh, what am I saying? Of course, they knew. It is as it must be. Junto said. If I may, masters, the Ancient One tried to speak. Do you question our judgment? Chikara questioned in a somewhat harsh tone. The Ancient One flinched before he straightened himself out. No, never. All is as it must be. Junto repeated. If there is nothing of consequence you wish to share, leave us. Chikara told him. We have no need of you. The Ancient One reluctantly stood up and made a bow before walking away. Aang sighed as he shook his head again. I'm sorry Yukyu, like I said, I respect them but, with how callous they seem to be, especially when people die, I just don't like it. It's all right, I understand. Yukyu assured. As an air nomad, you were taught that life was sacred and precious. And even though they might not show it, the tribunal does indeed value life. Because the existence of the demon Shredder is a threat to all forms of life. I know. I get all that, Aang said. But like I said, I don't really approve of their methods. Yoshi and Yukyu each showed looks of understanding before they and Aang directed their attention back to the Ancient One who was about to walk out of the chambers, only to look in surprise as the gate opened to reveal the toddler turtles all falling on the ground to his feet as they smiled innocently to the Elder Master. What are you doing here? The Ancient One questioned Splinter specifically. The children have seen a phantom stalking you. Splinter answered. The same ghost they encountered at your home. We followed to see that you came to no harm. Both Little Raph and Aang looked past Splinter to see the phantom in question. Speak of the demon. Aang glared at the bone demon as he walked throughout the monastery. There it goes now. Little Raph pointed to it, but as before, neither Splinter nor the Ancient One saw the demon. I see nothing. The Ancient One said. Nor do I. Splinter also said before he took another whiff. But there is a presence in the air. Something is not right. He's headed for that house over there. Little Raph pointed to the building that he, his brothers, as well as the spirits of Aang, Yoshi, and Yukyu saw the bone demon enter. The pool of sorrow. The Ancient One stated before a dreadful realization set in. The artifacts. Curse me for a donkey bottom. What? Aang and Splinter questioned at the same time, not quite understanding what he meant by that. He is saying he acted foolish as he led the bone demon to the artifacts of the Shredder. Yoshi translated. Oh. Aang said simply. Come. We must make haste. The Ancient One quickly ran to the building with Splinter and the toddler turtles right behind him. Hurry. The bone demon entered a large chamber where each of the four walls had the faces of dragons on them, and fountains of mystic water flowed down from the dragons' eyes almost like tears as they came to a pool in the middle of the chamber, hence the name, Pool of Sorrows. Once he walked inside, the bone demon held up his amulet and pointed it toward the pool. A red light shined from the amulet as it began to part the waters, revealing a hidden chamber inside. The bone demon walked down the staircase to see a trio of familiar dark artifacts, each with their own ominous glow around them. The helmet and gauntlet hovered over pedestals on the sides with the sarcophagus laying in between them. The bone demon's eyes widened with anticipation and awe once he saw them, like a fanatic servant of a cult approaching their god. The artifacts. At long last, I can fulfill my mission, and resurrect the Shredder. He walked toward the gauntlet first, but before he could begin the ritual. There he is. The bone demon turned around in surprise to see Splinter, the Ancient One, and the toddler turtles present as well. He's right by that sharp glove. Little Leo pointed toward him. But to the Ancient One and Splinter, he was still invisible. The gauntlet, the Ancient One questioned. I still see nothing. But his bony butt is right there. Little Raph pointed to him. Aang, Yoshi, and Yukio continued to watch as the bone demon snarled at the toddler turtles. You will pay for your interference, Little came. His amulet began to glow brighter as bands of red energy began to wrap around his body before he underwent a drastic transformation. His transparent robe was torn as his bones grew and he became even taller than before, growing a pair of bone-like wings and sprouting 2 additional heads as his original one grew with an elongated neck. The toddler turtles looked in horror while even Aang was shocked. Looks like he's not just called the Bone Demon, because he's made of bones. Aang commented, rather shocked by this transformation as well. Look out, little Mikey screamed. But we see nothing, my sons. Splinter said, but this left him and the Ancient One vulnerable as his right and left heads extended to bite and ensnare both the old masters by their waists and pull them closer, much to the toddler turtles' shock and horror. Though the young turtles could still see him, to Splinter and the Ancient One, it was as if an invisible force had got a crushing hold of them. Sensei. They all called to him. Master Splinter, no. Little Don practically screamed. He's got them both. Little Leo also screamed. I warned you meddlesome brats. The Bone Demon told the toddler turtles. Watch as your masters perish. He laughed, causing the toddler turtles to all cry. Aang glared as hard as he could, wanting nothing more than to fight this monster himself. Yukio put a hand on his shoulder to calm him slightly. Remember Aang, this is a memory. And the fact that the turtles, Master Splinter, and the Ancient One are all alive in your time means the Bone Demon does not succeed here. I know. Aang did indeed understand all that. But I just hate not being able to do anything. You may not have to. Yoshi said with a knowing smile. Just keep watching. Their suffering will be great. The Bone Demon continued to laugh as he slammed both Splinter and the Ancient One down on the ground hard, much to the horror of the toddler turtles as they continued to cry in fear and shock. But I promise, yours will be worse. Finally, little Leo had enough of this. Though his tears were still present, his fear gave way to anger as he grabbed a rock from the ground and threw it at the Bone Demon's head, much to Aang's surprise, and the shock of the Bone Demon himself. You dare! The Bone Demon glared. The other toddler turtles followed their brother's lead as they each began to pick up several rocks and throw them at the Bone Demon. Cut it out, little Leo told the demon. Leave them alone. Little Don also said. Get away. Little Mikey called out. Stop it you bone-headed freak. Little Raph exclaimed. However, the Bone Demon only laughed at their futile struggles. Despite that, Aang couldn't help but smile as this is why he always admired the turtles. No matter how strong their enemy was, they weren't afraid to stand up to them and fight back. As the toddler turtles continued to find and throw rocks at the Bone Demon, Little Don picked up a rather large rock and aimed it for the amulet. Though still quite young, his own analytical skills told him that shiny object was important. So, with a heave, Little Don threw the rock and scored a bullseye on the amulet, causing it to crack and break apart. What? The Bone Demon exclaimed in shock, enough so that he accidentally dropped Splinter and the Ancient One. Red light shined out of the cracks as the amulet appeared quite fragile before it shattered completely. The shockwave from the blast blew the Bone Demon back to the wall. And with the amulet now destroyed, Splinter and the Ancient One could now see the Bone Demon with their own eyes. Bullseye. Aang couldn't resist smiling. Well looky what I see. The Ancient One said before turning to the toddler turtles. Hey, nice shot Little Kame. He said to Little Don, who smiled as he rubbed the back of his head. As the Bone Demon recovered, the Ancient One walked towards him while discarding his wooden sandals. Now that the playing field has been leveled Phantom, let us just see how scary you really are. He said as he flexed his hands. The Bone Demon roared as he lunged his left and right heads at him, but the Ancient One leapt in the air to avoid them as he delivered multiple airborne kicks to send the Bone Demon crashing into the wall on the side, crushing his right wing in the process. Splinter was next to attack as he leapt and brought his staff down on the Bone Demon's left wing, severing it and causing the demon to roar in pain before he lunged his right head at Splinter, which actually split off from the rest of his body and functioned independently. Splinter used his staff to block the bite from the head as he struggled against it before slamming it on the ground to loosen its grip and leaving it open to deliver a solid strike to the skull, shattering it. The left head shot out from its body and gunned straight for the Ancient One, who merely leapt out of the way with no issue as the head impacted the ground. This repeated twice as the Ancient One kept his hands behind his back with each leap before the third leap over the next thrust from the head before he landed directly on the skull to shatter it as well. The toddler turtles all cheered as they saw their father and the Ancient One literally tear the bone demon apart. Though Aang didn't cheer, he still smiled as he was reminded just how skilled both Splinter and the Ancient One were. No bending abilities whatsoever, and they were already winning against this sadistic demon. Ancient One, look, Splinter said as they saw the bone demon transform back into his original appearance. His magic is failing, let's end this. The Ancient One declared before leaping behind the bone demon and firmly held onto its right arm, while Splinter did the same for the demon's left arm and keeping his staff wedged in between his hands and the bony arm. You are finished, fool. Splinter told the bone demon as he snapped off its left arm, with the Ancient One doing the same for his left arm before giving a hard kick to its back and knock it onto the sarcophagus, while the toddler turtles continued to cheer. The bone demon looked back in fear, which turned into horror as he saw Master Splinter and the Ancient One flying at him with hard kicks to his skull, cracking it irreparably as he was sent flying and crashing onto the ground. His red eyes rolled back as the bone demon fell to the ground in a heap, as he was dead now. The toddler turtles cheered even louder as they knew the fight was ended. The monster that haunted them since their arrival was gone and their father was their hero, along with the Ancient One. Even Aang smiled as he shared looks with Ukyu and Yoshi. Told you, Yoshi said with a knowing smile. Yeah, Master Splinter. They all cheered as they ran towards their father. Though little Raph stopped briefly to kick a pebble at the bone demon's corpse before joining the celebration. You destroyed him. Little Raph cheered to his father. You're the best. Little Mikey cheered as well. Way to go, Dad. Little Leo exclaimed with a wide smile. Sweet shell-kicking action. Little Don also cheered as Splinter smiled at all his sons while sharing a smile with the Ancient One as well. Well done, young one. They all looked in surprise to see not only Chikara, but even Judo and Khan hover into the chamber. You have crushed the bone demon. Chikara acknowledged with a small hint of pride in her voice. Only with the help of Splinter-san, and his young turtle ninja. The Ancient One paid the credit where it was due as each of the tribunal gave a nod of acknowledgement. We sensed the foot mystics would strike to retrieve the artifacts. Khan said, but knew not when. Their cunning is boundless. Seems like even the tribunal can be caught by surprise none and then. Aang acknowledged, speaking to both Ukyu and Yoshi. And they're definitely right about the mystics being sneaky. We owe you thanks, rodent. Judo told Splinter. You and your Kame children. He glanced at the toddler turtles who were inspecting and playing with the remains of the bone demon. Masters, how is the children could see the demon, yet we could not? The Ancient One asked. The amulet it wore blinded the wise and world-weary. Chikara answered upon seeing the remains of said amulet. Only those pure of heart, children, were immune to its powers. Still, not all children would resist its magic. Judo said. These four are unique, we will have to watch them, for the future. So, the tribunal has been watching the turtles this whole time. Aang asked in surprise. Is that how they knew about me and my friends? Because the turtles came to my world. The answer is yes and no. Ukyu told Aang. The tribunal likely learned of your friends while watching the turtles, interactions in your world, but they have also been watching the lives of every avatar that succeeded me, should the threat of the Shredder ever return. I see. Aang seemed to understand. However, at present, their knowledge of this night is a danger to them, and to us. Khan said, referring to the toddler turtles. Their minds must be relieved of these memories. I suppose, though Splinter hasn't forgiven the tribunal, he seemed to reluctantly agree that this could put his sons in danger under the threat of the demon Shredder's forces at large. Even Aang silently agreed that was probably a good idea, though he didn't quite like it. And it also did explain why the turtles never told him or his friends about this, because the tribunal erased their memories of this event. Be purged, Khan said as his eyes began to glow, resulting in each of the toddler turtles' eyes glowing as well. It wasn't long before their memories of coming to Japan until this point had been erased and the turtles acted dizzy and drowsy from the effects. Judo waved his hand to create a swirling portal in the air which led to the old lair in the New York sewers that also served as the home for Splinter and his family. My burrow, Splinter stated in a relieved surprise as this was far easier than sneaking on a cargo ship like before. Wait, Splinter, before you go, the Ancient One walked towards him before reaching into his robe to pull out 4 familiar colored masks. I have something for your little ones. Wait, are those? Aang recognized them instantly as Yoshi nodded in confirmation. Ninja masks. Splinter acknowledged with a happy smile. The Ancient One then placed each of the masks on the dizzy toddlers one at a time, the purple one for Donatello, the blue one for Leonardo, the orange one for Michelangelo, and finally the red one for Raphael. Both Splinter and the Ancient One, as well as Aang and even Yoshi and Ukyu, looked proudly at the young Ninja Turtles soon-to-be. Enough foolishness. Enter the portal, Chikara told them. Splinter then led his young sons into the portal that would take them back home. Goodbye, little Kame. Goodbye, Splinter-san. The Ancient One bid them farewell before the portal closed. Take care of yourselves. Once that was done, the entire memory faded as Aang found himself floating in a white void along with Ukyu and Yoshi. Wow. That was, wow. Aang didn't quite have the words for what he just experienced. I'm grateful that I saw all that, but why show me it in the first place? To show that even one who is small or weak can accomplish great deeds. Yoshi responded. They were only children, and yet those 4 turtles may have very well saved their entire world as they prevented the return of the Tengu Shredder. Yeah, but now he's back for real. Aang said as he got serious. And we will find a way to stop him. I'm certain you will. Ukyu told him. Just remember, Aang, you are never alone. Even if your friends are not presently with you, you have me, Roku, Kyoshi, even Yoshi here. No matter where you go, you have people who are always here to help guide you. The Avatar never has to do things alone. I know. Aang nodded with a smile. Trust me, Katara and the guys drove that point home loud and clear. He joked, resulting in Ukyu and Yoshi chuckling before the V-Zone was about to come to an end. Please give my regards to my father as well as Splinter. Those were Yoshi's last words before the vision finally ended. Present day, the lair. The whole of Team Avatar, the Turtles, and their friends had just listened to the entire story told by Splinter and the Ancient One, and they were all quite amazed. Even Azula was rather impressed. Wow, Sokka voiced everyone's thoughts. You know, I really have no idea what to say to all that. That's a first. Don joked as Suki giggled slightly. Man, even as toddlers, you guys still kick shell. Toph punched Raph in the arm with a smirk. Got that right. Raph ruffled Toph's hair in response. To think, we've been to Japan and met the tribunal when we were just kids. Leo said, sounding rather amazed. You even stopped the resurrection of the ultimate evil without even knowing. Azula gave something of a mix between a smirk and genuine smile. I have to admit, I'm rather impressed. Yes, Splinter was more than a little proud himself, remembering the event fondly. And even though you were very small, my sons, you helped win a very big victory. And we'll do it again. The Ancient One declared. We will find a way to defeat the Shredder. Yes, we will. Everyone looked up in surprise to see Aang fully conscious and back on his own 2 feet. Aang. Pretty much everyone exclaimed in joyous surprise as Katara was the first to run up and hug him. Both of them locked lips almost instantly before everyone else joined in. Though Azula and Karai hung in the back slightly as they shared smiles of relief, though Azula realized what she did as she simply looked away with a blush. Good to see you back on your feet, Aang. Leo told his friend. Yeah, and I saw everything, Aang said to his friends. That story you were just told, about all of you in Japan as kids, I saw it, thanks to Ukyu as well as Master Yoshi, and he sends his regards to both of you, Master Splinter, Ancient One. Both Splinter and the Ancient One had emotional smiles as they each nodded in acknowledgement. The young Avatar then became serious, as did everyone else. Come on guys, we're not out of this fight yet. We got work to do. And this is the end of Season 2 Part 6 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't really leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.